This video continues with Chapter 21 The Birth of a Champion. Dragon Ball, Reforming the Future. Chapter 21 The Birth of a Champion. Chapter 21 The Birth of a Champion. I announce. The finals of the No. 20 World's Best Martial Arts Tournament begin now. The referee in black suit shouted and announced the start of the match between Tang En and Sun Wukong. Monkey King and Xianren have completely different fighting styles. Xianren tends to seek progress in a steady state, while Monkey King is more inclined to try his own methods. Little Wukong was the first to attack, with his legs touching the ground, and he was in front of Tang En in the blink of an eye. Sweep your legs and attack! Tang En did a backflip and flew several meters into the air. Sun Wukong stared at Tang En's fall, first took a step back and arched his body to accumulate strength, and then jumped up and kicked. If this move was hit, the huge impact would be enough to kick Tang En off the field. Tang En had to admire little Wukong's observation skills, but this trick didn't work for him at all. He can fly. What? Sun Wukong kicked Tang En's arm in front of his chest, and then quickly landed on the ground. While Tang En was in the air, he was pushed out of the field by the force. Oops, something bad is going to happen. Player Tang En made a mistake and jumped into the sky, and then he was hit by Sun Wukong player. The referee's voice stopped abruptly at first, and then said in a more excited tone, Twain. The Tang En player stopped in the air. It's incredible. Wukong, the rule of falling outside the field has no effect on me, Tang En said condescendingly and show off. You can actually fly. How despicable. Little Wukong said depressedly. Tang En slowly descended to the ground. Only Bulma and Oolong knew that he could perform air dance. Okay Goku, I'm going to get serious next. Little Wukong is currently not as good as Kame Sennin. To deal with him, Tang En only needs to use his normal extreme strength. Using the God Fist will lose an opportunity to fight an evenly matched opponent. Tang En rushed over directly, like a ferocious beast, showing ire-colored fists, whizzed past, and hit the opponent's chest directly. The straight attack was easy to dodge. Little Wukong gently turned his right foot back to avoid the attack. Suddenly, Tang En's left hand came out from his right arm and continued the attack. Little Wukong didn't dare to be careless and continued to resist. Then he jumped up and tried to kick Tang En's chin with his calf brush! The calf hit Tang En, but there was no reaction and it went straight through Tang En's head. After image fist, Little Wukong was very surprised. He twisted his waist and landed accurately, watching the shadow in front of him slowly dissipate. Clap! Tang En came out from behind Little Wukong and violently punched, kicked, and struck him with his elbows and palms. He used the autumn wind to sweep away fallen leaves, unloading his power on the enemy. There was another bang, and Little Wukong was sent flying far away. It's incredible. Player Tang En dealt a huge blow to player Sun like a tornado! Can player Sun stand up? Let's start the countdown. 1, 2, 0, Gigi, it hurts. Player Sun stands up. The game continues. Sun Wukong rubbed his back with his short arms and cried out in pain through gritted teeth. Hey, that trick just now was really powerful, but now it's my turn. Little Wukong was ready again, and then took the initiative. The same straight punch was used, but this time the opponent was Tang En himself, and Tang En made a gesture to resist. Fight back. Tang En punched Sun Wukong! Sure enough, the body was penetrated by himself and was an afterimage. Tang En knew that Sun Wukong was extremely talented and had the ability to draw inferences from one example to other cases. Tang En was not surprised. He paid close attention to his surroundings and kept scanning his eyes. There is movement! A side kick with one leg also dispersed a Monkey King who was making a grimace. Tang En grinned. Even the multiple afterimage fists were of no use to him. It's here! Another simple straight punch. With a snap, Tang En felt the physical touch. and it hit! This punch hit little Wukong right in the face, and a red punch mark suddenly appeared. So strong. Damn it! Little Wukong said. Tang En was very satisfied in his heart. This feeling of leaving Sun Wukong helpless was a bit overwhelming. He seemed to go back to the time when he got no. 1 in the exam as a child, simple and happy. Okay. Tang En, I wonder if you can take this move? Little Wukong stood up, bent his arms on his waist, and said to Tang En. Turtlet was the turtle school Qigong. Tang En quickly figured it out. Don't you want to confront the Sun family? Tang En said this was impossible. Tang En bent his legs and clasped his hands together, concentrating his breath and his hands, and slowly formed a flow of air. Turtle pie, this is incredible. Is the legendary turtle-style Qigong that can only be used by Master Wushan, the god of martial arts, going to be released again? And this time there are 2 people! Could it be that player Tang En is also a disciple of Master Wu Qian? Let's enjoy this game to our heart's content. The referee shouted excitedly. He didn't know how long he hadn't seen such a wonderful game. Turtle sucked Qigong wave! The 2 launched the Qigong in their hands at the same time, and the dazzling white light engulfed the entire arena. The entire audience was stunned, and the strong airflow blew their hats over, letting them know that this was not a fake. Tang En held on tightly in the center of the storm, and the huge reaction force caused his body to continuously slide backwards. Tang En tried his best to curb this trend. Wow. Aha. Neither of the 2 let anyone else. Right now it depends on one's perseverance and luck, but Tang En knew that Sun Wukong would definitely not feel better. After all, his own strength was slightly higher than the opponent's. The short-term confrontation made Dun a little tired. His muscles had begun to feel numb, and a large amount of lactic acid challenged Dun's nerves. Tang En knew that he shouldn't just sit back and wait for death. Saiyans would only become more and more excited, so why did he need to pretend to be this big-tailed wolf? End the battle quickly and avoid unnecessary complications. It's just a pity that I am obviously stronger, but I still have to show my cowardice later on. God fist! Tang En muttered silently, and then he felt full of strength. Even the fatigue before was greatly reduced, and he felt extremely relaxed in an instant. While retaining his original strength, Tang En suddenly incorporated another force into Qigong to make it stronger. The Qigong that was originally evenly matched was finally broken and exploded. A loud bang! Fortunately, the ring was big enough, and the aftermath of the battle between the 2 men only blew up the dust around the ring and scattered it all over the surrounding area. Tang En took a few steps back and stabilized his posture before he fell. Little Wukong was blown even worse and fell directly to the ground, just about to struggle to get up. Tang En let out a breath. This round of confrontation had consumed at least half of little Wukong's breath, but the opponent still had a lot of motivation, which gave him a headache. Tang En looked at the sky. It would be a long time before it gets dark, but Tang En didn't want to fight anymore. Putting it off any longer and waiting for the moon to appear again will be an extra step and is inappropriate! Besides, Tang En has also gotten a lot of training, and the battle with Kame Sunan and little Wukong has been enough for him to figure it out for a while. Continuing to fight will only repeat the previous routine. Tang En walked up to Wukong, who was sitting on the ground, and smiled at him. Wukong, if I hold your tail, will you lose your strength? Little Wukong suddenly became furious and guarded his tail tightly. Don't get caught. Tang En was a little cute, but in the state of the God Fist, he was not something that little Wukong could stop. Come on. Don't come here. There was a crackling sound. Sun Wukong struggled for a moment, but finally couldn't outpace Tang En, and his weakness was caught. Then, Tang En picked up Wukong's tail and threw him out of the field. When Sun Wukong was caught by the tail, he immediately collapsed. Even the strength to speak was very weak, just like an esper trapped by the sea tower stone. It's unbelievable. Player Sun Wukong was thrown out of the field by player Tang En without any resistance! Then I announce that the No. 20 champion of the world's No. Martial Arts tournament is contestant Twain. The suit referee said earnestly. Krillin climbed down the city wall and asked Wukong curiously, "Why didn't you resist just now?" Wukong, "As long as I am caught by the tail, I will lose all my strength. There is really nothing I can do." Little Wukong scratched his head and said sheepishly, "Thanks to Tears of the Blue Whale for the 600-point reward. Thanks to Book Friend 130,704,131,501,344 for the 100-point reward." End of this chapter. Chapter 22 The Cyborg Butler Kabeki. Chapter 22 The Cyborg Butler Kabeki. The world's best martial arts conference finally came to a successful conclusion, and Tang En used the prize money from the conference to treat everyone to dinner. All are happy. On the second day, it was finally time to part ways. "Now, Wukong, Krillin, do you want to continue to practice with King Immortal in the future?" Bulma said. "Of course," Klin answered. After this competition, he felt that he still had many shortcomings and needed to train again. No, I've taught you everything I know. From today on, you have your own path to take. Just exercise on your own. I believe you can do it." Turtle Immortal also felt the growth of his two apprentices and gave them some advice. "Then I'm going to retrieve my grandfather's Dragon Ball. It's perfect to treat the journey as a spiritual practice," Little Wukong said and became excited. "Hey, what are the Dragon Balls?" Krillin asked Goku next to him. "It's the relic left to me by my grandfather," Little Wukong answered. "Okay, this is for you." Tang En took out the Dragon Ball radar from his pocket and gave it to Little Wukong. "In a few months, you can check the location of the Dragon Ball by pressing the Dragon Ball radar," Tang En continued. "Thank you. But Tang En, where are you going to practice?" Sun Wukong said. "Of course I went to Zidu to practice with me, and we built a super large gravity room. Wukong, if you come, I can lend it to you for practice," Bulma said. Tang En nodded, already satisfied with his cultivation in Zidu. In addition, he is also somewhat interested in the temple and the spiritual time room inside. "However, I want to go to the legendary Kailin Tower, but I don't know where it is," Tang En said to Gui Xianren. Turtle Immortal had been to Kailin Tower when he was young and must have known its location. "Kailin Tower, let me think about it. It should be in the forest far north. It should be easy to find," Turtle Immortal said to Tang En. "After all, Kailin Tower is so tall, it should be very conspicuous when you get closer." After getting the approximate location of Kailin Tower, Tang En felt relieved. After all, the fairy beans were found. After that, everyone went their separate ways for the time being. Sun Wukong continues to search for the Dragon Balls, Tang En and Bulma return to Zidu, and Klin continues to practice with the Turtle Immortal. 2 months later, Zidu suburbs, a new type of robot stood in front of Tang En. "Kabeki, come and help us grill some kebabs." "Doctor, you didn't load this function for me." Bulma's teasing came from the side. "Tang Jun, it seems that your machine needs to be learned first." Tang En laughed. Indeed, his application experience was still far behind. Just after the martial arts tournament ended, Tang En, Bulma, and Oolong quickly arrived at the Magnum Group, and then the three of them temporarily resumed their previous lives. It wasn't until a month later that Tang En realized that his progress had been very slow. "My usual daily training volume has been increasing with the improvement of strength until my energy is exhausted." But that month's strength only increased by 5 points, which made Tang En a little anxious. "According to this, my first threshold must be below 200. In order to better regulate his body, Tang En decided to rest for another month and then go to Kailin Tower to collect fairy beans. So in order to pass the time, Tang En started to take action on the artificial human technology that he had always been interested in. He wanted to build a robot butler for himself. Moreover, Tang En has high hopes for his work. After all, it is written by the most knowledgeable person in the world today. Therefore, Twain also specially named it a Saiyan Kabeki. This is the boss of vegetables. Even Kakarot is not as common as it. Speaking of the names of Saiyans, I might as well introduce them to you. Vegeta is worthy of being the prince of the Saiyans. His name is directly the first half of the English word vegetable, while his brother Tabor is the second half of the English word vegetable. The ones at the back are even more diverse. Nappa is a vegetable leaf, Kakarot is a carrot, Raditz is a white radish, and Badak is a burdock. There are also the ones that appeared in the theatrical version: Broly broccoli flowers, Dale's lettuce, Paragus asparagus. After understanding these names, Tang En understood why the refrigerator king on Namk knew Kakarot was the name of a Saiyan when he heard it. The Kabeki created by Tang En indeed has super high functions in many aspects. For example, with combat power detection, thanks to Tang En's transformation, this generation of detectors is already comparable to Frieza's Legion's detectors. The detection range can cover the entire Earth, but the detection data is not high. Only, after all, it can't be that high at present. This achievement made Bulma's father Bribes couldn't help admiring. After all, there is no ready-made detector research here. Everything was conceived by Tang En himself. After that, there are flight functions, positioning functions, communication functions, solar power storage functions, and intelligent language thinking. Finally, the learning function failed to be installed. And this one has a story. The main reason for the failure of the installation was that Tang En was instinctively wary of artificial humans and was worried about betrayal like Dr. Gallo, so he set the machine to be commanded from the beginning. Well, it fits Tang En's status as a big dog. Obviously, Tang En did not give him any combat device. At the same time, the most ridiculous thing is Tang En did not give Kabeki any information about Tang En himself, so Kabeki defaulted to his title of doctor. The result was widespread failure of the learning system. The completed Kabeki is cold and will only work after being given an order. Therefore, it has always been called an incomplete work by talented scientists like Bulma. But Tang En is already very satisfied. After all, it's only a month. He can make modifications when he has some free time. And now it was a picnic with Bulma before Tang En left. It is said that picnics are 3 times more delicious. Tang En flipped the barbecue and said to Bulma. Bulma was lying on the grass in a big shape, dazed from time to time. Thinking of Tang En's decision, Bulma felt reluctant to give up. Well, I won't listen. Bulma rolled aside. Kabeki's big head couldn't understand the situation in front of him, and he stood there blankly. How long are you going to leave? Bulma finally chose to support and said to Tang En. It will probably take some time. Tang En thought of the purpose of this business. Originally, he only wanted to take the fairy beans, but the slowness of his practice gave him the idea of going to the temple to practice. This will take a long time, and I can't tell for sure. After all, even Sun Wukong has been there for a long time. Thinking of this, Tang En approached Bulma and hugged her gently. Your husband and I must become the most powerful person on Earth. Otherwise, how can I be worthy of the genius, smart, cute, kind, beautiful, and gentle you? Tang En touched his conscience and said without blushing or panting. Bulma crossed her legs and crossed her arms, obviously feeling very comfortable, but she still said arrogantly, you still have a conscience. This lady is not something you get easily. You have to cherish her. It's obviously very easy to get. Tang En muttered secretly, oh my god, I just saw a funny joke on Jihu. It was really interesting. The tortoise was injured and asked the snail to buy medicine. After 2 hours, the snail has not come back. The turtle got angry and cursed, if you don't come back here, I'll die. At this time, a snail's voice came from outside the door, don't you ever stop telling me I won't go. End of this chapter. Chapter 23, Flying to Kelin Tower. Chapter 23 Flying to Kelin Tower. Kabeki, activate the combat power detection function and look for combat power high in the sky north of the Earth, with a range of more than, Tang En said. Yes, Doctor, Kabeki responded. DIDD detected advanced energy reactions at 2 locations! The first one is located at an altitude of 153 meters, with a data of 280. The other location is located at a higher altitude, with 2 advanced energy reactions. One is 300 and the other is... Kabeki said. The one with 153 combat power is undoubtedly immortal Kailin. This old cat has very good combat power. The other 2 should be Bobo and Tianchen. As we all know, the gods in Dragon Ball are stronger than the corresponding gods, and Bobo's strength must be more than the 280 or 300 strength. Otherwise he would not have been able to repair Goku, who defeated Demon King Piccolo so badly. Locate the position where the energy is 153 and fly to the vertical ground at this position. Yes, Doctor. Tang En discovered that Kabeki could also be used as a part-time aircraft, and the speed was not slow. However, it still does not break away from the category of propulsion engines for the time being, and it must not fly as high as meters. An hour later, Kabeki landed accurately under the Kailin Tower. Who? Asked a man wearing clothes similar to those of a primitive man. You are not allowed to trespass in Kailin Holy Land. Tang En jumped off Kabeki's body and looked at the strong man in front of him. After thinking for a while, Tang En thought that he should be Yupa's father, and he was not dead yet, which meant that Wukong's journey of collecting Dragon Balls had not yet completely begun. Tang En first looked at Kelin, who was looking endlessly, and then said to the strong man in front of him, I heard the legend of Kelin Tower, and now I'm here to challenge Kelin Tower. After hearing these words, Bra's hostility gradually dissipated, and then he stood up, the weapon in his hand. It turns out that you are the warriors who challenged the Kailin Tower. You can climb as much as you like, but no one has been able to reach the top of the tower for a long time. You must be careful. Thank you for letting me know. Tang En admired those people who followed the will of the gods and guarded Kailin Tower for generations. Kabeki, you can go back to Zidu first. I will go up alone. Tang En said. Okay, Doctor. Okay. Looking at the endless Kailin Tower reaching into the sky in front of him, Tang En jumped suddenly and landed directly on the tower, which was more than 100 meters away! Then, Tang En used his hands and feet to climb quickly. After all, this is also a kind of practice, and using Wukong technique would be too boring. Watching Tang En quickly disappear from sight, Bra, who was standing there, was inexplicably shocked. I didn't expect this little brother to have such strength. Maybe he can actually see the legendary Kailin immortal. Tang En, who kept climbing, scratched his head. Should he bring some gifts? For example, exchange some fish with Kailin for fairy beans. After all, those senior traversers did the same thing. After much thought, Tang En decided to give up this action and concentrate on climbing the tower. After all, a cat that lives for more than 800 years is no longer an ordinary cat. If someone wants to give it to you, just ask him for it. If he doesn't want it, can you still steal it? Trying to exchange something with it is better than directly stating what you want to do. Tang En didn't expect that this tower would be so tiring. He had been climbing for 5 hours and still couldn't see the end. After all, he had maintained a very fast speed. It was really boring. Tang En felt his hands and feet starting to feel numb. Just like that, after another 3 hours, Tang En finally saw the top of the Kailin Tower. What a perversion. Tang En quickly climbed up, climbed over the railing, and finally arrived. After that, Tang En turned over and was exhausted. It was already dark now, and Tang En only felt tired and sleepy. Moreover, the oxygen here is extremely thin, so even a little exercise will consume a lot of energy. Fortunately, it's not particularly dark here, so you can see your surroundings clearly even in the dark. Tang En turned around and looked around, but found no one around. Tang En didn't bring a detector this time. After all, he was here to learn Kai. It should be upstairs, probably looking at me now, Tang En thought. Tang En can still guess something about the little 99 in the hearts of these gods. After all, they are all familiar with them in his heart. Tang En stood up and walked towards the bucket where he could see the past, present and future. Would you like to go take a look? Tang En thought. Of course, the devil won't go. The first bucket showed the scene of Tang En practicing in the martial arts gym. Tang En smiled with emotion and missed it very much. This is the past. The second bucket shows Bulma sitting by the bed, turning on the lamp, reading quietly. This is now. Sleep, Bulma. Tang En shouted with his hand as a trumpet. Tang En was very dissatisfied with staying up so late. Huh? I seem to have heard Dun's voice. Bulma put on her slippers, opened the curtains and looked downstairs. No one was there. I won't sleep. I won't sleep. I'll leave you alone. Bulma stamped her feet on the ground and continued to confuse her on the spot. Tang En couldn't hear Bulma's voice here, but he still saw Bulma obediently turn off the lights and go to sleep after venting her anger. You must go to bed before late at night. This is what Tang En told you, so as to avoid having to work all night again as soon as you leave Bulma. Tang En was very happy, and then turned his eyes to the third bucket. Turn on. There is only one scene in it, where Tang En is practicing in the temple. The surrounding scene is very familiar to Tang En, so it is easy to recognize. It's not very magical. You can only see the future for a short period of time. Oh, this kid can go to the temple to practice. It seems that he needs to be carefully observed. Immortal Kailin secretly observed on the second floor. Sure enough, this guy was just peeking. At this moment, a voice rang in Tang En's ear. That's a bucket that can see the past, present, and future. I'm upstairs, so you can come up. After Tang En heard this, he looked around, found the stairs and went up. Soon, the big white cat who had been holding the magic staff appeared in front of Tang En. Mortal, are you here to drink the super holy water? Immortal Kailin stroked his few beards and asked. Tang En didn't want to drink boiled water, he wanted to eat fairy beans. Senior Kailin, I've been climbing for so long and I'm very hungry. Do you have anything for me to eat? Tang En held his stomach. This was indeed true. Immortal Kailin was stunned. There is such a guy, isn't he here for super holy water? Eyes, come with me. Immortal Kailin opened a jar and took out a bean. This is a fairy bean. If you eat one, it will last you 10 days. Qigong. Tang En had already eaten it, and felt that the taste was bland, and it wasn't delicious anyway. Immortal Kailin scratched his chin, feeling that the boy in front of him was a little dazed. All the physical fatigue had recovered, and Tang En clearly felt that his strength had improved. Really, Kailin Tower is really amazing. You can get such a high level of improvement just by climbing. What a magical bean. I don't know if there are more. I want to stock it up. Kailin Immortal. Tang En rubbed his hands in embarrassment and said to Immortal Kailin, do you want fairy beans? This thing was originally prepared for you. Anyway, no one is coming, so you can take it if you want. Immortal Kailin looked at the young man in front of him. His aura was very pure, and there was no trace of murderous intent on his body. And there is still a sense of intimacy in him, so he shouldn't be a bad person. Dun didn't expect it to go so smoothly. Then, Tang En picked up the fairy bean jar, which weighed about 10 kilograms. Fairy beans are 3 times heavier than ordinary soybeans, and there are at least 6,000 fairy beans in this jar. Thank you, Immortal Kailin. Tang En grabbed a few handfuls and left them with Immortal Kailin, and then put the rest into his universal capsule. This time it was Kailin's turn to be stunned. Immortal Kailin shook his head and said to Tang En, Kid, you are not here just for the fairy beans. Well, that's not the case. I'm going to go to the temple to practice. End of this chapter. Chapter 24, the beginning of the martial arts era. Chapter 24, the beginning of the martial arts era. Not really. I'm going to go to the temple to practice. Tang En said. Kailin immortal. Immortal Kailin carried the crutch, licked his paws, looked at Tang En and said, I didn't expect that there are legends of gods in the lower world. I thought no one knew about it anymore. But it's not easy to get the guidance of the gods. You have to pass my approval before you can reach the temple. Immortal Kailin said slowly. Tang En was not surprised either. However, Tang En himself has achieved some achievements in the concept of Kai at this time. However, because his own Kai is still weak, he can only vaguely distinguish the strength of other people's Kai. If he wanted to compete with Immortal Kailin for the super holy water bottle at this time, Tang En was sure to catch it within a few hours. Once you understand the essence of Kai, your unnecessary movements will naturally be reduced. Tang En shook the fairy beans in his hand, and suddenly thought that he still had one wish that he had yet to fulfill. When I think about it now, I still feel a little bit like returning home. Tang En planned to finish this matter first and then come to Kelin Tower. In this case, you can try multiple climbing exercises like Sun Wukong, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Immortal Kailin, there is no rush now. I have to go down to deal with some personal matters. I will come back to visit you in 2 days. Tang En jumped off the Kailin Tower and slowly climbed down along the pillar, still not using the Wukong technique. Immortal Kailin was left looking up at the young man who was coming and going like the wind. Amazing, meow tilde. He just thought that the young man in front of him came and went in a hurry, did not covet holy water, did not flatter the immortals, and was quite mysterious. In this case, he is indeed more suitable for cultivation than the turtle immortal of 300 years ago. However, Tang En just wanted to give his fairy beans to the old gym owner as soon as possible, and then continue practicing after fulfilling his wish, that's all. Tang En descended rapidly and saw the ground in just 4 hours. Afterwards, Tang En let go and went down, then used Wukong technique and headed straight to the southwest. At the Qiani Martial Arts Hall in Zidu, under the leadership of the old gym owner Mar, the young disciples of the Martial Arts Hall are training seriously. Qiani Martial Arts School has gradually gained some fame in the past few years. It has also encountered some gymnastics and competitions, and many famous martial artists have emerged. However, just the day before yesterday, a talented fighter overturned Qiani Martial Arts School, which dealt a huge blow to the year-old Qiani Martial Arts School. Maslow, you have been so good recently. You were able to trip Mark down the day before yesterday. I may not be able to beat you. Harem is a little chubby and seems out of breath when talking after exercising. Maslow on the side is well proportioned and he has grown up slowly during this time. In addition, the 2 senior brothers left in the middle, and now only senior brother Rem may be able to overwhelm him. Brother, do you think it would have been better if I had changed that kick into a hand knife? Maslow asked Rem. How do I know? You can ask the master, Rem replied. At this moment, Rem was lying on the door frame, and Maslow was opposite him. Rem subconsciously looked at the new juniors behind Maslow. If someone made a wrong move, he would remind them in time. At this moment, a man in unusual clothes appeared in front of him, standing out among the group of Taoist uniforms. Hey, Maslow, is that junior brother Tang En? It seems like that. Rem reminded him by kicking the opponent. Senior brother Tang En? Hasn't he been gone for a long time? It is said that he even won the championship of the Martial Arts Association. It's incredible. In fact, the influence of the no Budokai in the world is definitely not high, and only those who are truly interested in it know about its players. Rem did not respond to Maslow. At this time, he was already sure that the person in front of him was Tang En. He raised his hand: Twain. Here. After a year's absence, Tang En finally came here again. This was the place where his martial arts began. When he heard someone calling him, he subconsciously looked in that direction. Senior brother Rem, Maslow, long time no see. Tang En walked towards them, and the young students in the martial arts hall all looked at Tang En. Under Maslow's boast, everyone was somewhat familiar with Tang En's name. Maslow gave Tang En a hug. "Brother, is that champion really you? I really can't believe it." His excited tone seemed to be blaming Tang En for not calling him a shameful act. "At the very least, I can cheer for you." Tang En was a little touched. He had undergone many changes after leaving the martial arts gym. During the first 2 years here, Tang En always felt repulsive. "At that time, I was really in the second grade. On the surface, he's impeccable and polite to everyone, but he is always arrogant on the inside. I am immersed in my own world all day long, planning my own future." Because at that time, Tang En always felt that he did not belong here. In fact, Tang En did not even realize that the young man in front of him, who was also an orphan, respected him. After going around in circles, Tang En realized that these people in front of him were just like the protagonist group. They were real characters and should not be ignored by him. "If you are talking about the 21st Martial Arts Conference, I think it should be. Let's go to it together next time, Maslow," Tang En said. "Yes, senior brother." Tang En and the three chatted for a while, and then Tang En asked Rem about the location of the old club owner. "Grandpa, I'm back." Tang En opened the door and said to the old owner, "Except for the replaced chandelier, nothing has changed inside." The old owner raised his head and was not too surprised to see Tang En. He smiled as wrinkled as ever. Tang and the two smiled at each other. "The fairy beans are still as magical as ever." The old gym owner's long broken leg was able to move again in an instant, which made the old gym owner a little speechless for a while. The two hadn't seen each other for a long time. At this moment, the old owner unexpectedly revealed his own youth experience to Tang En. When the old owner was young, he was indeed a genius who could rival King&amp. He traveled around for most of his life and saw a lot of things. Perhaps feeling how powerful Tang En was at this time, the old gym leader subconsciously mentioned his own helplessness when he reached the limit of martial arts. This made Tang En feel that the old owner was unlucky. If he was born a few decades later, he could see a wider world like Kelin and meet stronger enemies. Maybe he would be 1,000 times stronger than he is now. Thinking of this, Tang En had an inexplicable idea in his mind. What would happen if all the people on Earth knew how to practice cultivation? Or what would happen if all people on Earth were able to practice cultivation? Earth society in the Dragon Ball world is an extremely contradictory thing. Technology stratification, regional differences and distance spectrum, that's all. The most bizarre thing is that the average martial arts knowledge per capita is pitiful. That's it for other worlds, but this world itself is a world where you can become stronger through certain exercises. The benefit of convening the age of cultivation is not only that it can significantly improve the average level of human beings in a short period of time, but also provide a little more self-protection, which is small but better than nothing. Although this will not affect the various powerful enemies that will appear in the future, it can at least open everyone's eyes and understand the world. In addition, this will also help Tang En seek a turnaround. There are countless capable people in the world, and there may always be some who are amazing in martial arts. With this environment, these people will not have their talents buried. Through mutual exchanges, they may actually be able to find ways to practice that break through human limitations. As long as there is the first, there will be the second and the third. And it is not particularly difficult to achieve this goal. All you need is a guide. As long as one person can prove that Qigong and flying are real, point out the methods of practice, and provide guidance, people will naturally start practicing. The signing contract was sent late, and I haven't been listed as a recommendation for next week. But we don't panic. After all, the number of words is not many, and it doesn't matter if we wait another week. Try to comfort myself. Also, I would like to thank everyone. Without any recommendation or swiping votes, this book still received nearly 1,000 recommendation votes, and it only has 0,119 words so far. It really inspired me. I am especially grateful to July in this regard. Lil sister, I will continue to work hard. End of this chapter. Chapter 25, The Beginning of the Martial Arts Era. Chapter 25, The Beginning of the Martial Arts Era. In the Martial Arts Hall, Tang En was chatting with Maslow and Rem. So, you are so dejected because you all lost to that guy named Mark. Tang En drank the juice handed over by Maslow with a straw and said slowly, "Yeah, if it's just an ordinary kickboxing player, forget it, but that guy is so arrogant. You won't be convinced just thinking about it, right? Senior brother Rem," Maslow said depressedly. "There's nothing we can do, he's not a few years older than me, we're just weak. But I believe that if junior brother Tang En takes action, he will definitely be defeated," Rem said from the side. Tang En had already gotten rid of the vulgar taste of bullying the weak, and ignored the two men's attempts to induce him to take the lead. At this moment, Tang En was thinking about another thing. "Maslow, Rem, do you two want to know the real martial arts?" Tang En said. "Real martial arts? What is real martial arts?" The two people couldn't help but ask. Tang En decided to give them a try. "Yes, look," Tang En's hand flickered, and soon a beam of light appeared. Call out exclamation with a thought from Tang En. The beam of light passed straight through the wall, leaving a hole. The two were stunned. Is this magic?" Rem and Maslow were both shocked and couldn't believe what they were seeing. Obviously, Tang En was testing the acceptance limit of ordinary Earthlings. At present, they only regarded martial arts as a punch-of-flesh attack. And now, Tang En is trying to make them believe in him. This is not magic, this is called breath. What I want to say is that each of us will have this breath, but the amount that ordinary people have is very small, but it can continue to increase through exercise. Tang En looked around and said to the two of them, "Yesterday, he told the old owner of Fungus about this smell." At that time, the old club owner was just surprised, which made Tang En admire the old club owner's experience. Obviously, the old gym owner had heard or seen this move before, but he just couldn't believe that Tang En could use it, so he was a little surprised. Right now, Maslow and Ram are the young people he knows who are most suitable for spiritual practice. Whether it is selfishly or affectionately, he should help these two people. Maybe they will become important figures in promoting martial arts. It's amazing. The two people exhaled slowly. Tang En paused. "You know, people can become very strong through special exercises. This is what I call real martial arts." The two people showed some complicated expressions and asked in unison: "Very powerful. Can you easily defeat Mark's level of strength?" Tang En did not want to tell them about two advanced levels of martial arts, as that would inevitably make them doubtful and depressed during their practice. Tang En said simply, "I don't know who Mark is, but if you can practice well, I believe you will definitely be able to rise to a level beyond your comprehension in a short period of time." The two of them were yearning for each other, and Tang En was thinking about who should teach them. After all, he really couldn't spare much time. Tang En gave the two of them time to digest and would give him an answer early tomorrow morning. The two people went back and asked the old club owner, and the result was obvious. The old club owner is very much looking forward to the advancement of his genre, and is also very envious of the two of them meeting a leader when they were young. He himself had nothing to teach him, he just wanted the two of them not to let this opportunity go by. So the two expressed their attitudes that day, hoping that Tang En could guide them in their practice, and that they would be able to accept it no matter how difficult or dangerous it was. Maslow was alone, while Rem said goodbye to her parents and sisters before setting off. In the past half-day, Tang En himself had already packed various supplies for the two of them, as well as 2 years' worth of food, and put them into a universal capsule. Tang En wanted to send 2 people to Kailin Immortal. One was a convenient way, and the other was suitable. There may be better improvements if they are handed over to Kailin, but that would interfere with the progress of Kailin and Krillin. After all, there is a big gap. Besides, Turtle Immortal may not be able to accept them. It's just that 2 people have suffered, and I don't know if they can survive on the Kailin Tower. Tang En asked Kabeki to send the 3 of him to Kailin Holy Land, and then he flew straight up with 2 people. With exercise, can I fly like my senior brother? Maslow and Rem sighed secretly, feeling a little firmer in their hearts. After activating the God Fist, the 3 of them reached the top of the tower in more than an hour. However, this also shocked the 2 of them that there was such a tall tower in this world! At this time, Immortal Kailin was already watching them from the top of the tower. Tang En, you can only get my teachings by climbing up the Kailin Tower with your own strength. Kailin Immortal said. Isn't the Wukong technique considered my own power? Of course, I'm talking about the 2 people around you. Immortal Kailin pointed at the 2 of them with his crutch. Rem and Maslow are a little short of breath. The air here is thin. Let alone practice, they have to adapt to survival for a while. After hearing what Kailin said, both of them were wondering what kind of joke this was. It was so high that they had to climb up by themselves. Tang En has no other choice. Maybe this can have a good effect after all. By the time the 2 of them can adapt to the environment here, they will probably be masters down there. Kailin Immortal, the inheritance of the lower world is almost cut off, and there are very few people who can climb the Kailin Tower on their own. Tang En paused and continued. Senior Kailin, I want to pass on the practice methods of the temple and Kailin Tower to pass on. Please help me. Immortal Kailin scratched her body with her claws and looked at Tang En without saying anything. In his heart, he still admired Tang En's idea. After all, he had witnessed the decline of Earth's martial arts with his own eyes. At this time Rem said, Immortal, no matter how difficult the practice is, the 2 of us will endure it. Please give us a chance. Rem and Maslow were both sincere and unwilling to lose this opportunity, nor did they want to let down Tang En's feelings, so they bowed. Immortal Kailin didn't say anything and walked downstairs with his crutches on his shoulders. There was neither rejection nor agreement. Tang En wondered if it was to test them both. After all, this was very common. But these are the affairs of these 2 people. Anyway, their lives are not in danger, and they cannot practice in their current state. It would be a good idea to just leave them alone for 2 days. Tang En gave the food to the 2 of them, and after explaining to them, he followed the cat Immortal downstairs. Immortal Kailin, I'm here to get recognition for arriving at the temple. Tang En said. Immortal Kailin turned his head and said to Tang En, take this bell. The wishful stick leading to the temple is no longer with me. But this shouldn't be a problem for you. The temple is at the top of the Kailin Tower. Tang En took the bell and continued, Sage, aren't you going to conduct experiments? Meow tilde no need. You have already surpassed me just now. Tang En said that he understood that he had been practicing Tiantian Fist. Tang En always felt that this was an amazing thing. Now, the Tiantian Fist has been able to increase his strength by nearly %. Otherwise, he would not have been able to fly the 2 of them to the Kailin Tower. Kailin Immortal, regarding the fairy beans you gave me, in addition to relieving hunger, it also has the effect of restoring injuries. I discovered this accidentally. I hope you can continue to plant it. Maybe it will be of great use. Tang En simply put forward his suggestions. Immortal Kailin was a little surprised. She didn't expect that the food she grew had such a miraculous effect. Tang En simply explained that the fairy beans had been obtained anyway, and it would be useless even if Kailin Cat regretted it. After getting the bell, Tang En did not hesitate. After swallowing a fairy bean, Tang En flew straight towards the temple. End of this chapter. Chapter 26 Bobo&amp #039's Guidance. Chapter 26 Bobo's Guidance. After getting the bell, Tang En didn't hesitate. He swallowed a fairy bean and flew straight to the temple. After activating the God Fist, Tang En moved forward at full speed with the power of the fairy beans. Soon, Tang En broke through the black clouds, and his body was still entangled with some remaining thunder and lightning sparks. Finally, Tang En arrived at the temple. Looking around, it is covered with white stone floors, with several green plants planted in 2s and 3s, and a castle-like palace. This is the general content of the temple. Tang En jumped onto the temple, looked around, and walked towards the palace. Suddenly, a voice came into Tang En's ears. "It's amazing that you can fly up to the temple with Wukong Jutsu." A black man dressed in Indian clothing said to Tang En, "I am Bobo, a servant of the gods." Tang En turned his head and looked at Bobo. When did he appear, or has he been here all along? Tang En calmed down and recalled the information about Mr. Bobo. This guy is now a big shot. In the Cyan chapter comics, his combat power was 1030 in the official data, which is no small feat. After all, Bobo doesn't train all the time like the Z warriors, so he is not far away from this data at the moment. At least it should be stronger than the gods. After all, according to the setting of the Dragon Ball world, servants of gods are more powerful than gods. Hello, Mr. Bobo, my name is Tang En. I came to the temple to get better training. Tang En bowed and took out Immortal Kailin's bell and showed it to Bobo. I see. Did Immortal Kailin ask you to come? Without waiting for Tang En to say anything, Bobo continued to say, by the way, you are the first person to ascend the temple after the god ascended the throne. Bobo's dark face still showed no expression. Then, Bobo looked at Tang En and said, if you want to get guidance from the gods, you must first defeat me. Are you ready? Tang En nodded, indicating that he understood mention here as the benevolent part of the original body. The gods are different from Majin Buu. The gods occupy more parts of the original body. Therefore, the gods are stronger than the evil Piccolo, but they are only weaker than the newly trained Piccolo. Regarding Bobo's words, Tang En originally wanted to find a stronger opponent than himself, and Bobo's words were exactly what he wanted. Please advise. Tang En disappeared in an instant, but this didn't make Bobo feel any strange. Afterglow fist exclamation Tang En separated out a few after images to test his opponent, and then his main body took the opportunity to run behind the opponent. The other party didn't react at all, and remained in a state of indifference, allowing the afterimage to attack him. But at this moment, although his back was to Bobo, Tang En felt that he had nowhere to start. How to say? Tang En felt as if Bobo didn't exist at this time, invisible and intangible, with no flaws in his body. Moreover, Tang En believed that what he did had never escaped his sight. It's useless. Tang En thought. Exclamation Tang En gritted his teeth and stopped, revealing his figure. He felt that if he had punched there just now, he would have lost miserably. He wouldn't think it was Bobo's mistake. After all, at this time Tang En's basic combat power was only around 110, which was more than twice as weak as Monkey King, who had drunk super divine water and defeated Piccolo. Defeat Baba, just kidding. Even Goku at that time was much worse. Unexpectedly, Bobo said such a sentence. You are very powerful, there is not much Bobo can teach you. Bobo said quietly, leaving Tang En a little confused. Tang En was confused for a while, but he knew his own strength very well. I've never heard that Mr. Bobo likes to tease people. At this time Bobo continued, you can't hide it from Bobo. Your actions prove that you can tell the difference between the two of us. This requires very advanced practice. Tang En was stunned for a moment. Was he using this to judge his own strength? After thinking about it carefully, Tang En seemed to understand why Bobo said that. Yes, whether it is Sun Wukong who has just entered the temple or himself, there is almost no difference between the two to Bobo. It's just a weaker one, that's all. Tang En recalled that although Wukong was powerful at that time, his aura was disordered and he made too many unnecessary movements. This is what Bobo mentioned to Wukong many times. Although Tang En also had these problems, he had known about them for a long time and had been solving them subconsciously. In addition, because I have a very good knowledge of martial arts, I have never failed in the practice of breath. Therefore, he is much stronger than Wukong in this aspect, although Tang En is currently not strong. For example, it is still easy for Tang En to judge a person's strength. Maybe in Bobo's view, this level is more valuable. Next, to Tang En's surprise, Bobo took the lead in attacking. Since you can't do anything to Bobo, let Bobo help you. Bobo flew towards Tang En and dealt him a series of rapid punches. Tang En first dodged and avoided Bobo's sudden punch. Boom! Then Bobo hit Tang En on the head with another punch without any warning, causing Tang En to fly far away when Tang En didn't see clearly. Then, Tang En wiped his mouth and continued to welcome Bobo's attack. Ta-da bang bang! Fists and kicks were exchanged, and the sound continued. Soon, Tang En discovered that every time Bobo hit him, there would be a short pause, and then he would continue to attack him. Is this giving yourself time to adapt? Ha ha! Turtle-style Qigong wave. Tang En sent out a Qigong, aiming directly at Bobo himself. Snapped! Bobo held down this Qigong with both hands, and then dragged it upward to change the direction of the Qigong. Tang En took this opportunity and immediately activated the God Fist, and the aura around him changed! Bobo, who easily mastered the turtle-style Qigong, ran over and saw this situation. Bobo stopped first and took a deep look at Tang En, obviously a little surprised. Then, Bobo attacked Tang En at a faster speed, using the same technique. Tang En has some understanding. Bobo's attacks are directed at his own weaknesses, and his vision is really vicious. Moreover, no matter how strong he is, Bobo will always be a little stronger and a little faster than himself. In this way, Tang En could not only expose his flaws, but also prevent Tang En from being too hasty and give Tang En a certain amount of time to react. A very clever sparring method is much faster than Tang En's own blind guessing. In the next quarter of an hour, Bobo tried many ways to attack Tang En. Tang En had no choice but to resist, but he was still inevitably hit by Bobo. That's awesome, Tang En said to himself. Under Bobo's constant attacks, Tang En was already unable to defend himself. After a long time, Bobo stopped attacking. It seemed that Bobo felt that he had learned enough information and immediately began to give guidance to Tang En. You do have fewer unnecessary movements, but your mind is not calm enough. Aren't you calm? Tang En pondered this sentence secretly. Of course, he had been thinking about how to fight back and dodge just now. Moreover, Tang En had to spend more time thinking about his flaws. How could he calm down? Then what should I do? Tang En thought to himself. Thanks for your support. End of this chapter. Chapter 27 Gradually Mastering Kai. Chapter 27 Gradually Mastering Kai. Above the temple, Mr. Bobo devoted himself to guiding Tang En's practice. You do have fewer unnecessary actions, but your heart is not calm enough, Bobo said to Tang En. Aren't you calm? Tang En pondered for a moment. Yes, Bobo cannot be defeated by brute force. It is completely useless. You have to be in the state of nothingness so that you can see Bobo in action. After all, only by seeing Bobo's movements can one hit Bobo. Bobo turned his back to Tang En and said slowly. Tang En looked at his hands in a daze, thinking carefully about the meaning of nothing that Bobo said. Is that right? Tang En remained still and said tentatively. This is what he has learned from Shenlong for the time being. No, you just don't think about anything in your heart now, not nothing. Bobo slowly pointed out Tang En's mistake. Tang En feels very profound. At this time, due to the lack of oxygen in the air and the extremely low air pressure, Tang En became very tired after just a short exercise. High altitude still has a great impact on humans, even though Tang En's physical fitness is far beyond that of ordinary people. Seeing Tang En's strange behavior, Bobo said at this time: the environment here is harsh, and you humans won't be able to adapt quickly. After saying that, Bobo left Tang En and walked directly to the palace, leaving Tang En alone to think. Tang En took a few deep breaths and adjusted his condition. Tang En thought for a while, trying to be like Bobo. So Tang En sat cross-legged on the ground, rested with his eyes closed, and felt the changes in the surrounding environment. It doesn't seem to make a difference. At this moment, Tang En recalled the understanding of Kai from the gods of past generations, but Tang En still found it a bit difficult to absorb. Otherwise, he wouldn't have to travel all the way to the temple. All the gods generally believe that Kai is the embodiment of life. As long as you grasp it, you can mobilize your body as you wish. Tang En repeated it, thinking he could understand it. But making it happen by himself, Tang En said, was a bit difficult. The breath is still too small, and I only allow myself simple control. Forget it. Let's not think about this for now. Tang En simply lay comfortably on the temple and couldn't help but think of his friends around him. I don't know how Bulma is doing now, but I really miss her. Has Goku become stronger? It's probably time to look for the Dragon Balls now. And Kailin Immortal, have you started teaching Rem and Maslow? Tang En, who was tired of thinking, began to empty his mind and let his thoughts wander around. At this time, Tang En really had some insights. At this time, Tang En felt warm and comfortable. For a moment, Tang En felt that he suddenly understood something. It was so magical. Some martial arts knowledge suddenly came into focus in Tang En's mind. Oh, it turns out these words can be understood this way. A smile appeared on Tang En's lips. He knew that he was in very good condition at the moment. If you take out the detector and look at it at this moment, Tang En's aura is really declining, slowly but steadily. For a moment, the birds and bees raised by Bobo flew past him, and some stopped on Tang En. Half a day passed, and the sky gradually darkened. Tang En woke up. At this moment, he was lying on the floor looking at the sky, twisting his body with the sound of his bones, feeling very comfortable. He was like a stone just now, his body motionless. However, Tang En could feel his thoughts wandering, and scenes from the past appeared before his eyes. A few hours passed in the blink of an eye, which made Tang En somewhat confused whether it was reality or a dream while sleeping. Inside the palace, excuse me, Mr. Bobo. The god said, Lord God, that is indeed a talented young man. Moreover, his understanding was also excellent and he did not abuse the abilities given to him by Shenlong. Bobo replied. The god sat in his seat and looked at his staff. That boy's breath is a little strange. It seems like a god. Do you see anything? The god continued to ask. Bobo doesn't quite know that this young man can transform his aura through some kind of change. Moreover, this transformation will also improve his own strength. Even Bobo doesn't know what's going on. Bobo said, Okay, please let Bobo continue to teach him. After all, this young man is the only one who has ascended to the temple and may be the next generation of gods, said the god. Lord God. Bobo hesitated to speak. Due to the longevity of the Nampians, this generation of gods is the generation that has been with Bobo the longest, and Bobo still has deep feelings for them. The god didn't respond, just silently thinking about other things. Days passed by, and before he knew it, Tang En had already spent a year in the temple. Over the past year, Tang En first, under Bobo's guidance, made his movements more streamlined and complete, making up for his own flaws. Then, Tang En continued to explore the meaning of nothing in his continuous attempts. He was blindfolded to avoid Bobo's attack, and then tried to catch a cat with a bell on its tail under the interference of multiple bells. He adapted to the ultra-low pressure and hyposic environment by reducing unnecessary movements. What is gratifying is that Tang En did it all. This made Bobo very happy. Tang En's own strength also improved by leaps and bounds, heading towards the threshold of 200. Tang En never thought that he could improve so fast. As silent as the sky, as fast as lightning, Tang En sat cross-legged, closing his eyes and thinking carefully about Bobo's appearance. As Tang En becomes stronger and stronger, correspondingly, Tang En's understanding of Kai becomes simpler and simpler. At this time, Tang En, who was in the state of Tiantian Fist, could easily sense other people's strength, location, and other information. Tang En sat cross-legged, motionless, only the sound of the wind blowing. Jingle bell, jingle bell. Bobo took out the bell and shook it twice, but Tang En had no reaction. At this time, the entire temple was surprisingly quiet. Not far away, Bobo looked at Tang En, put away the bell he took out, and also remained motionless. The god in the temple stood up from his seat. At this moment he was holding the magic staff and silently sensing the breath of the two people. The same calmness gives people a feeling that it will not be shaken even if the sky falls. Immediately afterwards, Tang En's breath disappeared. It was as if he had truly merged with the air and completely disappeared from the mind of the god. The god finally walked out of the temple and looked at Tang En outside the temple. Although the two have never met, they are already very familiar with their respective auras. Successful, the god said. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, the gods really couldn't believe that there was a person standing there. Bobo on the side gave a rare curve of his mouth. It should be a smile. Tang En opened his eyes and sighed, finally passing the test. Up to this point, it took a year to integrate his own martial arts memory and Bobo's teachings. Tang En has entered the door of martial arts, and he has completed the first step of the temple and the most fundamental practice. Please give me a monthly ticket and give me a recommendation till the end of this chapter. Chapter 28 Kailin Tower&amp #039's new guest. Chapter 28 Kailin Tower's new guest. Half-year ago, just like the original work, Sun Wukong turns against the Red Ribbon Legion in order to collect the Dragon Balls. Therefore, he met the killer Tao Bei, but was defeated due to being outmatched, and Bra was also killed. Later, Sun Wukong began to climb the Kailin Tower in order to drink the super holy water and become stronger. At this time, Rem and Maslow on Kailin Tower were also competing for the super holy water in the hands of Kailin Immortal. Sure enough, Immortal Kailin did not drive the two of them away. During the past 6 months, the two of them slowly adapted to the environment in Kelinta. Then he received some advice from Immortal Kailin, and his strength is slowly growing. Immortal Kailin, who easily handled the robbery between the two, felt something in her heart. She leaned her crutch on her body and said to the two, "Let's get here first today." "Yes, Rishi." The two people were panting and collapsed on the spot, holding onto their bodies. Immortal Kailin stood on the fence at the edge of Kailin Tower, looking at the figure climbing rapidly, with some expectation in his heart. Kailin Immortal has watched countless people climb Kailin Tower. Basically, he can confirm whether a person is qualified to climb the tower at a glance, and the kid in front of him makes him very optimistic. A day later, Sun Wukong finally climbed up. As expected for a little kid, your speed is already pretty fast. Immortal Kailin said to Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong probed the probe and found that it was the cat on the side who called him again, and said dissatisfiedly, "You talk about me being shorter than me." After saying that, little Wukong walked up to Immortal Kailin seriously and said bluntly, "Ni, tell me quickly where the immortal is." Immortal Kailin knocked the ground with his crutch and said, "Why don't you understand, little brat? I am the cat fairy." Sun Wukong was very surprised. "Are you a fairy?" "Actually, to be more precise, it should be the fairy cat." Immortal Kailin stroked her beard and said slowly, "Okay, I heard that you drank super holy water here that makes people several times stronger. Is it true?" "I want to drink that water." Little Wukong is very ungrateful. Ho. If you say you have it, you have it. If you say you don't have to have it. Sun Wukong continued, "Is there one or not? I came here specifically for it." Immortal Kailin turned his back to Sun Wukong and continued, "Do you want to drink super holy water?" Come with me. Immortal Kailin was very proud. It seemed that not everyone was as easy to fool as Tang En. The two of them walked to the second floor of Kailin Tower one after another, and Rem and Maslow were also on top. Seeing a young man following Immortal Kailin, the two asked in surprise, Colon, Immortal Kailin, this is Sun Wukong. Saw that there were people on Kailin Tower and said loudly, Colon, hello, my name is Sun Wukong. Are you here to drink the super holy water too? Sun Wukong climbed up on his own. Immortal Kailin pointed out. Can you really climb up? It's as amazing as senior brother Tang and Maslow said in a low voice. Then the three of them got to know each other briefly. Wukong, Rem, and Maslow, the three of you come together. As long as you can grab the super holy water in my hand, you can drink it. Kailin Immortal said. Okay, is it that simple? Little Wukong was very excited and smiled with teeth. It's not simple at all, Rem said with a bitter smile. We've been grabbing it for half a year, Maslow added. Hey, half a year? Little Wukong was shocked. Then, he quickly shook his head and said, No, I have to drink it in a few days. Immortal Kailin asked curiously, I said, why do you want to become stronger? Wouldn't it be nice to be independent from the world? But it's because Yupa's father is dead, and Grandpa's 4 stars must be used a lot of blah blah blah. Stop talking, keep stammering for how long? Immortal Kailin interrupted Wukong's words. What, you asked me to say it? The two stared at each other for a few seconds. Quiet, I see. In order to resurrect Yupa's father, you must first defeat the killer named Tao Beibai. Otherwise there will be no way to collect the 7 Dragon Balls. I understand. Kailin Immortal said. Little Wukong was shocked. Huh? I didn't say anything, but you actually knew it. If you can't even read minds, you're not an immortal. Besides, you're very simple and easier to interpret, Immortal Kailin said. Okay, you can start grabbing. Okay. The three of them fought together, but Kailin Sage dodged them one by one. As the Snatchers, Wukong and the three were in a state of confusion, and collisions with each other often occurred. This grab lasted another half a day. Immortal Kailin knew that Wukong was much stronger than the other two, and that the opponent's strength had improved quite quickly. Under my own guidance, I made considerable progress in just half a day. Thinking that it took Wukong a whole day to climb up last time, there is still room for improvement. It seems that he can use Kailin Tower again. Immortal Kailin threw down Wukong's wish-fulfilling stick, forcing Sun Wukong to climb down and then climb back up. 3 hours. Amazing. Rem and Maslow were surprised to learn from Kailin that Wukong had spent a whole day last time, but this time it only took 3 hours. Even Immortal Kailin was very pleased. What a genius indeed! As time passed, the fight between the 3 people turned into a fight for little Wukong alone. Immortal Kailin also gradually became embarrassed at a speed visible to the naked eye, no longer as calm as before. 2 days later, Sun Wukong won. Under the eager eyes of Maslow and Rem, Sun Wukong drank the cup of super holy water. It doesn't seem to be any different. Lil Wukong shook his arm, not realizing that he had become stronger. Have I really become stronger? At this time, Immortal Kailin said, Actually, I have never drank super holy water that can improve people several times. The so-called super holy water is just the process of your exercise, nothing more. The 3 of them gradually changed from being surprised to suddenly realizing. Wukong, I have seen your progress in the past 3 days. You are already much stronger than before, Kailin Immortal said. It turns out that I am very strong now. Okay, I'm leaving, Kailin Immortal. Little Wukong clenched his fists with satisfaction. Then Sun Wukong quickly jumped off the Kailin Tower, really coming and going in a hurry. I see Rem and Maslow thought to themselves, finally giving up the little chance they had left in their hearts. Sure enough, we can't expect to reach the sky in 1 step. Immortal Kailin's words also made the other 2 people realize a lot. If they want to improve, they have to rely on themselves after all. And Tang En's purpose at the beginning was not to let the two of them grab the super holy water. Instead, the two of them learned to breathe, exercise, and move under the guidance of the cat immortal to lay the foundation. After understanding these 3 points, Kailin's practice can be put on hold for a while. After all, the two of them still need time to accumulate. When the two of them reach the point where they can climb the Kailin Tower on their own, their physical fitness will be barely able to accept Kailin Tower's training. The two looked at each other and nodded heavily. Rem stepped forward and said, "Immortal, please allow us two to leave here." Maslow also said, "Very, we will climb this tower through our own efforts and on our own." Immortal Kailin scratched his beard, squinted his eyes and smiled. "I didn't expect you to have such courage. Okay then. Kailin Tower is a holy place for spiritual practice, but currently the two of them need a vast world to enrich their vision, so that they can go faster." Somersault cloud. 2 black somersault clouds flew over and sent the two of them down respectively. Immortal Kailin looked at the 3 people in different directions, looking forward to the growth of several people. Thank you Reader Jomch for the 500-point reward. End of this chapter. Chapter 29 The Strongest Man on Earth. Chapter 29 The Strongest Man on Earth. The practice in heaven is still continuing, and half a year has passed in a flash. Tang En's combat power improved extremely slowly during this period, but he still managed to reach 200 bit by bit. After resting in heaven for 3 days, Tang En made a request to enter the spiritual time room. He feels like he can break through. As he gradually applied martial arts knowledge to himself, the distance between quantitative change and qualitative change was only one opportunity. At this time, God stood in front of the spiritual time room. Just 3 hours ago, he personally put Tang En in. In order to prevent Tang En from getting lost, he also sent Bobo in for guidance. God never expected that the boy who was very weak 2 years ago would now become so powerful, to the point where he had to pay attention to him. What an amazing perseverance inside the spiritual time room. Aha. Turtle School Qigong Wave. Click. The huge energy blew away a glacier, scattering tiny bits of debris. Tang En's turtle-style Qigong had already surpassed Turtle Immortal's original all-out attack. Qigong, which gathered a large amount of heat and light, rushed towards Bobo. The white airflow swept across the whole world, and the curtains of the hut were blown. Bobo took a lunge and blocked the blow with all his strength. How? Tang En quickly appeared behind Bobo, and the rapid shadow of his fist made Tang En's figure blurred. He fought and walked towards Bobo, constantly pushing him back. Bobo disappeared in front of Tang En's eyes, causing Tang En's blow to miss, and then he received a kick from behind. Tang En turned somersault and squatted on the ground to keep his balance. At this time, the temperature changed drastically, and big beads of sweat flowed down Tang En's face. Tang En stood up and drank. "Take my move, haha." Cod fist. Bobo was immediately unable to resist, and there was a trace of embarrassment on Gujing Mubo's face. From the time Tang En arrived at the temple to the month he has been practicing in the spiritual time room, a full year and more than 7 months have passed in total. What a fulfilling year! Now, under the guidance of God and Bobo, as well as his rich martial arts memory, Tang En can finally start to suppress Bobo himself. Bobo stood aside and was lost in thought, feeling a little like he was in another world. In the past 2 years, he had personally witnessed Tang En's improvement. It only took less than 2 years to go from being weak to the current level, which is simply unbelievable. What? A heavy punch mixed in with many attacks caused Mr. Bobo to be knocked to the ground by surprise. When? Yeah. Ho ho. Tang En jumped several meters into the air. 10 times the gravity made his back ache and his teeth trembled. No one knows what it took for him to get to this point. Bobo stood there and smiled, recalling his experience in the spiritual time room in the past month. Mr. Bobo, please don't hold back on me. Mr. Bobo, I need a real enemy. It doesn't matter no matter how seriously injured I am. Come on, if I didn't take this move and fell down, I would only have myself to blame. Within 3 days of arriving at the spiritual time house, Tang En broke through the first bottleneck in the harsh environment, and he spent 8 fairy beans in these 3 days. In other words, he was on the verge of death 8 times in the past 3 days. This is not just because of Bobo, but more importantly because of the extremely bad weather in the time house and the 10 times the impact of gravity. Thinking back, Tang En felt that those 3 days of practice were the most difficult time in his life so far, but luckily he survived it. Tang En's rapid progress for half a year allowed him to fully accumulate. After adjusting his condition to a good state, he finally achieved a breakthrough in more rigorous training. Tang En has become obsessed with this feeling of gradually improving his strength. After the breakthrough, Tang En's strength grew rapidly! After only 1 month in this time room, the combat power has reached nearly, which has doubled completely, and it has not stopped yet. But Tang En decided to go out. There are 2 reasons for leaving the spiritual time room. The first is that the current Bobo can no longer beat him, and there is not much he can do to help him. And Bobo's strength at this time is not at all 1030. This strength probably only existed when Bobo guided Tianjin and others in the original Cyan chapter. He should have progressed together with the Z warriors. The world of Dragon Ball is so strange. If a person has no opponent, no matter how hard he works, the effect will be greatly reduced. Presumably this was also inseparable from the fact that the people of Tianjin Iklanyamu coffee table were able to break through and reach a combat power of more than in one fell swoop. The second point is that Tang En really can't stand the environment here. The white sky has begun to make him mentally numb. Coupled with 10 times the gravity and the huge temperature difference, his nerves have been tense for a month, and he has reached his limit. Although there is still room for improvement, Tang En decided to leave this place. At this time, only 3 hours had passed outside. Tang En and Bobo, who were dressed in rags, walked out of the door of the time house one after another and met the god standing at the door. Such a strong aura. The gods left a trace of cold sweat. Is this a level that people on Earth can reach? Tang En quickly calmed down and said to the god, Lord God, I finally made a breakthrough. There was unconcealable joy in his words. The god nodded. What are your plans in the future? Do you still want to continue practicing in the temple? Tang En replied, No, thanks to God and Bobo for taking care of me for more than a year. I decided to go to the lower world to rest for a while, and then make plans to practice. At this time, Bobo said, Lord God, I am no longer Tang En's opponent. The god nodded silently, saying that Tang En had already surpassed him. Unexpectedly, besides the gods of the past generations, there would be someone who could surpass him. It's amazing. At this time, the will to establish Tang En as the next generation of gods became stronger and stronger. However, at this time, the great demon King Piccolo has not yet been reborn, and the deity's desire to abdicate is not yet so urgent. Moreover, it will still take some time before the end of the deity, and there is no mention of handing over the deity at this time. Tang En said at this time, Lord God, I have a friend named Sun Wukong. He is a disciple of Turtle Immortal. In time, he will definitely become a brilliant martial artist. You might as well pay more attention to him. God remembered, the character that Tang En mentioned as powerful at this time must not be an ordinary person. Tang En, the future of the earth will be left to you from now on. I hope you can revitalize martial arts again. The god couldn't help but think of his evil incarnation 300 years ago. If martial arts masters like Tang En had existed back then, there would not have been such a big gap in the earth's martial arts. Saying this, the god raised his right hand. Tang En's shabby clothes were restored to their original condition, no different from brand new ones. Thank you, Lord God. Tang En thanked him. Are you going? Tang En, Tianchen and Bobo looked at each other again, really reluctant to part with them. The place where I sweated for a year and a half! My lord, Mr. Bobo, goodbye. Tang En turned his head and waved. Bon voyage. Gone. Tang En made a dive and quickly flew downward along the trajectory of Kailin Tower, aiming directly at Zidu! Ouch! A muffled cry sounded out, and Tang En was like a bird out of its cage, flapping his light body, and disappeared after a while. He needs someone to share his happiness with. At this moment, he is the strongest man on Earth. Please give me a monthly ticket for recommendation. End of this chapter. Chapter 30 Experience Retirement Life in Advance. Chapter 30 Experience Retirement Life in Advance. On a road in Zidu, Bulma, Oolong, and Kabeki are sitting in a milk tea shop. Bulma ordered pudding and milkshake for two. Looking at the glass next to him, Bulma rested his palm in a daze, looked through the glass at another finger tapping on the table, and said weakly, Twain, he didn't even write a letter back when he went out to cultivate. It's really disgusting. Kabeki's dull head turned towards Bulma. As a product of Twain, a guy with persecution paranoia, he was naturally programmed to be absolutely loyal. There is nothing we can do about it. The doctor's communicator is broken, but he has already reached the heaven before that. He can't just come down casually, Kabeki said. Bulma murmured and repeated, Heaven? Then he straightened his head and shouted with bared teeth and claws, Who would believe that such a place exists? Oolong was very dissatisfied by the shouting. He sat on a chair, put his hands in his pockets, and said something sarcastic: HMPH, maybe he has been killed by the gods. That guy doesn't know how to respect others. Several people were noisy and gradually changed the topic. After a while, Bulma received a call by coincidence. Tang En came to the Magnum group at this time and happened to miss Bulma, but he did meet Bulma's mother first. After 2 years of growth, Tang En has now reached a height of over 1.8 meters. Coupled with his different strength at this time, his appearance has become a little restrained. After an overly enthusiastic greeting from Bulma's mother, Tang En was able to escape and asked Bulma's mother to contact Bulma. After all, Bulma was so angry that it would be difficult to tell the difference, and it would definitely not be as fast as a cell phone. When he learned that Kabeki was also going with him, Tang En seemed a little bored and only got the former gravity training room. This time he came back with a super interesting technological idea. This is what Tang En accidentally thought of during his practice. It should be possible to upgrade Kabeki and become even better. At this time, Tang En increased the gravity of the training room to 10 times for the first time. Suddenly, a huge pressure was placed on Tang En. Tang En moved his muscles a little and then changed it to 5 times. Just like that, Bulma received Tang En's call. Damn. Damn, Bulma hugged Tang En and beat her hard, but now she could only get Tang En's breasts to express her inner dissatisfaction. Tang En also cherished the scene before him. For 2 whole years, he didn't expect that he could persist like this for 2 years. This was not like his original self. At this moment, when he returned to the girl in front of him and thought about his current strength, Tang En even felt a little like a dream. Isn't that what he wants at this moment? Tang En's hands holding Bulma became even tighter. Tang En knew that he could not always crush everyone in terms of strength, but after 2 years, Tang En really became more sober. There are many things that are many times more important than strength. He once again understood the persistence of everyone, including Vegeta, Krillin, and Tianjin Fan. The two were separated for a long time, and Tang En listened carefully to Bulma's confession, starting from Bulma repairing little Goku's Dragon Ball radar, to destroying the Red Ribbon Legion, seeking the help of the fortune teller and fighting with his warriors, and then defeating King Pilaf again, and finally summoning the dragon to resurrect Bra, and fighting with little Goku. Wukong's difference. Tang En listened carefully to Bulma's words. I didn't expect that I have experienced so many things. Tang En was very pleased that Sun Wukong had so many interesting experiences with Bulma when he was not around. Thinking of himself and Bulma again, inexplicable emotions emerged in his heart. Tang En looked at the elated Bulma in front of him, and secretly rejoiced in his heart for the developmental characteristics of the Saiyans. Bulma currently only regards Goku as a child. However, Tang En was determined to make up for this extra year. What about you? Could it be that you really went to that heaven? Bulma began to raise her head slightly and closed her eyes as she began to interrogate. Yes, it was a very arduous practice. I felt that my whole person had become different. There were several times during which I felt that I couldn't stand it and wanted to give up. Tang En replied. Bulma asked in surprise, is there really a god? What does he look like? Tang En didn't know how to answer for a moment. Haha, he must be handsome, right? Bulma imagined a handsome boy in her mind. How should I put it? Tianchen is an old man who is hundreds of years old, Tang En said tentatively. What? Hundreds of years old? Bulma's eyes widened. And it's all green, with pointed ears, a purple tongue, and tentacles. The handsome guy in Bulma's mind suddenly turned into a mess, and Bulma quickly shook her head to dispel the thought. Horrible. The two chatted and finally changed the topic to the world's best martial arts club. Tang En, the martial arts conference has been changed to be held every 3 years. This means that it will start in 1 year. Bulma reminded. Tang En nodded. He knew the news. Bulma continued. Xiao's son has become super strong. He defeated the 5 masters of the fortune teller alone. Wukong. Well, one day he will become a powerful warrior that no one can imagine. Bulma was also used to what Tang En said. After dinner, Tang En divided Kabeki's computing core into 2 parts, trying to add a database to the extra part so that some functions could have a separate computing core. Tang En's astonishingly powerful technological level makes him unparalleled in creativity in this field. Generally speaking, anything that is feasible in theory will be realized. In this case, Kabeki will not only have a learning system in the future, but also free up some space to prepare for setting up a combat system. After making the outline, Tang En conveyed the order to Kabeki himself, and he could complete the rest by himself, including any glitches that might occur in the process. In the next month, Tang En spent most of the daytime, except for the necessary training time, taking Bulma to the outskirts of Zidu. The 2 of them were driving without a destination, leaving and stopping whenever they wanted. Or go have a barbecue, lay out a carpet and read a book together, or open the universal capsule and find the equipment and bask in the sun together. Sometimes Tang En would tell a few Andersen fairy tales to the strange girl in front of him, which was surprisingly effective. One time while driving, I encountered a group of robbers exchanging fire with the police. The bullets almost hit Tang En in the car, but of course even if it did, it would be fine. When crossing the city to reach the suburbs on the other side, Tang En also went to Chiani Martial Arts School once and received the news that Maslow and Rem had not returned yet. Tang En brought a camera to record the 2 people's trip. During this time, Tang En fell in love with fishing, and this process was of great help to Kai cultivation. It must be said that Bulma is indeed a considerate woman. At least she will subconsciously support Tang En in many things. For example, in terms of cultivation, compared to Kiki, even though Bulma didn't know why Tang En had to become stronger, she never hindered his career and instead subconsciously helped him. At this moment, Tang En, who was wearing sunglasses, had the idea of entering old age early. Every morning when Tang En wakes up, he can even feel the groaning of his own cells, and his body almost flies into the sky after experiencing the baptism of the spiritual time room. A little movement can make the bones crackle. Tang En clenched his fists, feeling fuller than ever before. This kind of life is really exciting, much more comfortable than fighting and killing. End of this chapter. Chapter 31 The King&amp #039's Call. Chapter 31 The King's Call. Magnum Group. Tang En's practice has never been dropped, and he has been training non-stop every day. With the help of fairy beans, Tang En can try to break through his limits every once in a while and enter another stage. The effect is really good. Tang En's body is also in the golden period of growth, and he is expected to break through to the level of Kailin Tianjin when Vegeta first came to Earth within this year. Not fast, that's for sure. After all, there is no pressure of life and death at this time, and it is understandable that a few people are slower than others. This cannot be faked. There are two paths after that, either to find stronger opponents in the universe to fight and seek breakthroughs, or just look for someone like the Great Elder of Namek to directly develop your potential. Both can take themselves one step further and achieve the goal of over-combat effectiveness. Are you Mr. Tang En? A police sergeant asked while standing outside the gravity chamber, holding a photo of Twain. Tang En, who had just finished training, was a little surprised. He had no other friends in Zidu. Tang En looked at him dressed as a policeman and asked, "What have I done recently?" "I am. Are you looking for me?" Tang En replied. The policeman shook Tang En's hand hard and said, "Colin, your heroic deeds have been made known to us. Please be sure to accept the government's reward." Tang En, the policeman continued, "After knowing that you are Miss Bulma's boyfriend, we did not dare to delay at all and immediately went to the Magnum Group to look for you. Please be sure to accept this medal." The policeman stood at attention, with his right hand on his left chest and his left hand holding the medal with a serious expression. However, it can still reveal a unique two-dimensional atmosphere. Tang En was stunned for a while. "What?" "I saw what was written on the medal, Warrior of the People, Incarnation of Justice to Mr. Tang En, who did not want to be named. The other side also has the words Imperial Badge of Honor. Are you sure you didn't recognize the wrong person?" Tang En thought about what he had done recently, and it seemed that he didn't do anything special. After returning with Bulma, he practiced at home, and he didn't even do things that he considered very meaningful, such as promoting martial arts. "Mr. Tang En, you don't have to be modest! 3 days ago, the news that you defeated the most violent bandits in Western Capital and rescued more than a dozen policemen and dozens of hostages has been spread! That's a criminal who tried to assassinate the king. Please accept my sincere respect." The policeman bowed again. 3 days ago, Tang En suddenly realized. It wasn't that he was pretending to be stupid, but that he didn't remember it at all. At the time of that trip, when passing through the city, he did encounter a group of people exchanging fire with the police, and he dismissed them casually. After all, he has the strength, and those people almost hit him. Tang En was a little puzzled. He just felt like, what was this? Can it even compare to the Red Ribbon Army that Goku destroyed? He haven't seen Wukong get any medals either. What Tang En didn't know was that he was the only one on Earth who regarded these things as trivial. After all, even if the moon was blown up, Tang En would not be frightened. But after all, this world is still composed of a circle of ordinary people. Just ask a modern person how he would feel if he saw Superman appear in real life and easily eliminate a group of bandits carrying heavy weapons. Twain was not bored enough to dress up like Gohan in a ridiculous Super Saiyan costume, so he was photographed by the cameras on the street and the crowd in the distance at the time. As for Goku destroying the Red Ribbon Army, it is true that no one has seen this. After all, no ordinary person would dare to go to the home of Red Ribbon Army map. With the destruction of the Legion, everything was covered up, and the few who saw the video of Wukong destroying the Legion did not know Wukong's identity. "Okay, I accept the medal." Tang En felt pretty good, even a little surprised. Seeing Tang En accept the medal, the police chief wiped his sweat and continued, "Colin, Your Excellency Tang En. After we learned that you wanted to hide your identity, we awarded you the honor in private. His Majesty the King should have awarded you the award in person. The King is deeply saddened by this group of criminals, and sincerely invites you to meet." "I don't know meeting the King, to be honest." Tang En really had this idea. After all, the promotion of martial arts requires state propaganda, and the government must have a certain degree of control over ordinary people. Otherwise, it is not just a matter of saying that Z uses force to disrupt the ban, and the whole world will become chaotic. Since there is only one country in the Dragon Ball world, there are no external enemies, and the army is just a decoration, barely able to deal with a Red Ribbon Legion. Suppose there are a few evil people who become strong men and then do evil. Tang En can't be a Superman all day long. Okay. It went surprisingly smoothly, and the policeman wiped his sweat. Your Majesty the King, Mr. Tang En is here. The Owl King turned his head, and he really looked like a king. Tang En looked at the king in front of him. It was said that this man was the first person to collect all the Dragon Balls. Sir Tang En, please take a seat. Tang En sat down and asked, I wonder what the king's instructions are. The cat-headed king seemed very kind. To tell you the truth, I do have something important. The king took out a photo and handed it to Tang En. Wukong, Tang En said in surprise. You really know him? The king looked very excited. I can't believe it. This kid actually wiped out the kingdom's powerless Red Ribbon Army. It took me a long time to find out the information about him. He was the runner-up of the No. 20 Tenkaichi Budokai. Here the king paused and continued, and you are the winner of this competition. It has to be said that compared to those commercial fighting competitions, the influence of the world's No. Budokai is really small. What a mistake. In the original work, Goku turned into a gorilla at the 21st World No. Martial Arts Tournament and Jackie Chan overturned the moon. This shocking information was regarded as a bluff and was ignored by the king's secretary. I wonder where Mr. Sun Wukong is now. I must personally award him with the honor of the kingdom. The king said sincerely. After saying this, the king felt that Tang En had been left out in the cold and then expressed his willingness to provide Tang En with a higher honor. Tang En had a good impression of this king. After all, he was also someone who knew some of Sun Wukong's strength in the original work. After learning that Tang En did not know the location of Sun Wukong, the king felt a little disappointed. However, he quickly cheered up and asked Tang En if he was willing to serve as the commander of the royal guards. Obviously, this was because he knew Tang En's status as a homeless man. Commander, it sounds quite touching. Tang En remembered that this royal guard once appeared in the Cell game, but it quickly faded away, but it was quite complete with aircraft, tanks, and cannons. Tang En was really moved. Is the military commander in this world such a loser? But it's just a sigh of relief. If you do this, do you still want to practice? Time is still tight, okay? Tang En turned to look at the king's computer. On the screen was a partial video of Sun Wukong destroying the Red Ribbon Army. At this time, Tang En said, Your Majesty the King, look at the white light on Wukong's hand. After hearing this, the king quickly asked, I have always wondered what this is. Please enlighten Mr. Tang En. End of this chapter. Chapter 32 The Power of Terror. Chapter 32 The Power of Terror. After hearing this, the king quickly asked, I have always wondered what this is. Please enlighten Mr. Tang En. This is called Kai. Tang En replied, Gas. The king wondered. Yes, you can find an open place and I will try it for you. The king was overjoyed after hearing this and quickly said, I didn't expect Mr. Tang En to be so generous. Please follow me. I saw the king taking Tang En with a few soldiers behind him. They all rode in cars to the training ground outside the palace. This is the proving ground of the royal guards. You can see man-made high-rise buildings, training tanks, and artillery targets. At this time, Tang En also saw the soldiers of this army. On the way here, Tang En also learned that this unit has a strength of 5,000 people and is equipped with state-of-the-art weapons. It is the only military force in the western capital and protects the safety of the palace. I have to say, it's very loose, but it fits the characteristics of this world. Mr. Dun, please demonstrate, the king said. After speaking, a soldier drove a tank over and stopped in front of Tang En. What's the meaning? Tang En thought about it and realized that he wanted to imitate Wukong and destroy it. However, Tang En is here to demonstrate his martial arts power this time, so driving a tank would be too underestimated. Soon a general was moving soldiers into fortifications outside the orbit. Your Majesty King, it would be better for you to stay away, Tang En said. After hearing this, the king stepped back a few meters and was blocked by the soldiers with shields. Only his eyes were made of transparent tempered glass. Are the cameras on? Report to the king. All angles are ready. The king nodded turtle group when Tang En's voice came out. The cat-headed king's eyes lit up. Looking at the light in Tang En's hand, he couldn't take his eyes off it. That's it. It's incredible that it can melt that kind of material, the king murmured. Gas achievement. The dazzling light was wrapped in Tang En, and the surrounding airflow was affected, followed by the dust on the ground shaking slightly. Is there an earthquake? The soldiers hiding in the fortifications shrank their heads subconsciously, and the dust trembled and shook like a precursor to a storm. Tang En thrust his palm forward. What? Boom! Exclamation. Destruction. Containing a huge aura, the most spectacular appearance of turtle-style Qigong since its creation has appeared. The tank in front of him melted like tofu. The air gradually made a muffled sonic boom sound, and the land in front of Tang En was almost scraped off a layer of skin. Boom! Exclamation. With a loud noise, Qigong exploded at the imitation high-rise building in the distance. The hot waves, accompanied by earth-shattering air currents, washed away everything in sight. Everyone is stupid in the blink of an eye. The concrete floor in front of me revealed its earthen skin, and the ripples on it were all neat and tidy. The high-rise building at the end disappeared in place, leaving a deep pit of tens of meters. Where is the king at the moment? He didn't see anything. When he heard the loud noise, he was thrown to the ground by the soldiers. The smoke had not cleared yet, but the king had already stood up tremblingly. The king subconsciously looked at Tang En in front of him, his face trembling a little. He couldn't tell whether he was shocked or frightened. Tang En turned his head and said to the king, "This is Kai. After training, it can become invincible. The turtle-style Qigong is not a real field-clearing skill. If Tang En uses all his strength like Piccolo's super-explosive demonic wave, most of the entire western capital will be destroyed." The king's eyes became frightened. Not only that, the soldiers in the military base were almost in chaos, and the worldview had to be rebuilt. Can manpower do this? Tang En clapped his hands. His goal had been achieved. If such personal experience could not make the king sober, then there was nothing he could do. "Your Majesty the King," Tang En shouted. Yes. Now the king really didn't dare to neglect. Tang En couldn't help laughing as he looked at the king standing at attention. It's best not to make this matter too public to avoid causing too much trouble. But I can tell you clearly that theoretically at least half of the people on Earth have the potential to reach this level. Twain said. "One half. Yes, this is not all my strength. The purpose of my visit this time is to tell you this. I hope you can refer to the great demon King Piccolo 300 years ago. The government should have trained suitable martial artists long ago." Tang En secretly thought that Piccolo, who would break through the seal a year later, might be able to use this opportunity to experience the martial arts of Earth. The king was lost in thought. Tang En left quickly and was sent out respectfully by several soldiers. When King Kath had returned to the palace, he immediately began to look for and read the mythical stories about the big devil Piccolo. Tang En did not fly directly back to Magnum Group. When he was in a good mood, he liked to fly aimlessly in the sky, anywhere, and then return the same way when he felt bored. By chance, this feeling of freedom made Tang En feel very good. After a while, Tang En looked down and saw that the Gixian house was right below him. Tang En thought for a while, and he and Gixianern had not seen each other for a while. When passing by this time, why not go see him? Tang En focused his attention below and found two familiar auras. One was Turtle Immortal and the other was Kelin. As expected, the Kai of both of them has improved greatly. It seems that both of them are practicing hard, overtly or covertly. Right now, a little man wearing an orange martial arts uniform was pushing a boulder hard, passing deep marks along a path. You can vaguely see some sandbags tied to the little man's body and a turtle shell on his back. Klin. Long time no see. Tang En quickly descended and greeted Klin. Klin looked surprised when he heard someone calling him. He put down the boulder and looked back. Don En? How did you get here? Then Klin thought about Tang En's seemingly ability to fly and stopped worrying about this issue. You must be here to visit Teacher Wu Qian. Please come with me. Klin kicked off his shoes, jumped over the railing, and took Tang En to see the turtle immortal. Yeah, left, right. Oh ho 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 ho, great. Kim Sunin was so enthusiastic about some of the plots on the TV that he ignored Krillin, who was grabbing at him, turned it on, picked up the TV and danced. Klin looked at Tang En and blushed, feeling embarrassed for his master. Master Wu Qian, Tang En is here, go. Turtle Immortal didn't care at all and dismissed the two of them casually. Oh, Tang En and Klin are both more or less dull. Tang En thought that he seemed to have nothing to do when he saw Turtle Immortal, so he followed the resentful Klin out. This little man is quite clever, feeling that this should make Tang En cold, so he hurriedly looked for topics. Tang En, I didn't expect that boy Wukong to become so strong. Klin was really unwilling to think about this. When he first learned that Goku had destroyed the Red Ribbon Army, Klin, as a friend, was first happy for him. After that, he couldn't help but envy Wukong's strength and wanted to train harder. Yes, Wukong is always making progress. Tang En sighed from the bottom of his heart. Kelin thought that Tang En had defeated Monkey King before. Although he took advantage of the weakness of the tail, he must be stronger than himself. The thought of fighting Tang En came to mind. Tang En could easily see through Klin's thoughts. Klin, come on, let me see the results of your practice over the years. Klin clenched his fists, grinned, and nodded heavily. The secret passage was exactly what I wanted. Okay, I'm very different from before. Klin took a few steps back, stepped on the sand with his bare feet, and clasped his palms slightly. Then Klin's feet were close to the ground, his knees were bent, his left leg was forward, and his chassis was extremely stable. End of this chapter. Chapter 33, Respective Practice. Chapter 33, Respective Practice. Kelin stepped back a few steps, stepped on the sand with his bare feet, cupped his palms slightly, his feet were touching the ground, his knees were bent, his left leg was forward, and the chassis was extremely stable. Then, Klin disappeared in a flash. But for Tang En, Klin's unabashed aura was as conspicuous as a large 1000-watt light bulb covering his eyes. Tang En clearly felt Klin's movements. From the side, Tang En thought faintly. When the strength reaches a certain level, you will find how obvious the opponent's flaws are in slow motion. Now Tang En could grab Klin's throat or penetrate his chest in the blink of an eye. Tang En turned slightly to the side and avoided Klin's punch with a subtle gesture. Kelin was not surprised either, and then tried his best to test Tang En's limit. At this time, Tang En thought about how Bobo's training for him was so similar to the situation before him. Tang En said subconsciously, "You don't have to rush to look at the enemy with your eyes after flipping. This action is too deliberate." Kelin was stunned, and if he didn't immediately stare at his opponent, what would he do if he was attacked? Another quick punch, boom exclamation being held firmly by Tang En. The purpose of training is nothing more than to make your movements so that your opponents can't see clearly. Tang En let go of Klin and continued, in addition to necessary physical exercise, controlling one's own breath means reducing one's own consumption and better achieving one's goals. Tang En changed the term breath. This is the step of cultivation. Breathing does not mean reducing unnecessary movements. But when a person reaches that point, he can better understand the secret of his own power. It's a matter of time. Some people may be naturally powerful and can easily understand Kai from a high position, but they still need a deep understanding to better control their bodies. For example, after Vegeta became Super Saiyan Blue, he also carried out systematic training on the planet Adrat. He was able to greatly increase his power simply by deepening his mastery of Kai. Despite the results that Vegeta has accumulated over the years, the never-ending depth of the aura can still be seen. After saying this, Tang En continued to fight with Kelin, making a symbolic move, but never mentioned giving advice again. How should I put it? It could be seen that the atmosphere was slightly awkward when he was giving advice to Kelin. After all, the two of them were still just friends, not even good friends. It was very impolite to point out the other person's shortcomings in such a familiar way, and as long as Kelin reached that point and recalled his own words, he could solve those shortcomings by himself. Suddenly, Turtle Immortal looked at Tang En there through the window and fell into deep thought. Tang En stayed at Gixian Wu for lunch. Although Kelin was small, he ate a lot. Tang En, you have already been to Kailin Tower. Came Immortal's voice came. After all, Tang En said such a thing. Yes, as far as I know Goku has been there too. Tang En recalled the aura he felt when he was in the temple, and it must be Wukong. I see. Turtle Immortal thought about what Tang En said to Kelin, and he had already made a guess in his heart. Kelin didn't quite understand what the two said, so he quickly grabbed more bowls of rice while the two were talking. The food was not enough for 3 people. Kelin, you should also find time to climb the Kailin Tower. It will be very helpful, Tang En advised. Kelin agreed indifferently at first, and then thought that since Tang En and Wukong had been there, he must go too. For some reason, Turtle Immortal always felt that something was wrong when he saw Tang En this time, as if an indescribable feeling. Turtle Senin passed the trials of Kailin Senin at a young age. In addition, I have lived for too long and have seen a lot. Even if I have never practiced Kai, I can actually sense Kai much better than others. It's not that Kame Senin thinks Tang En is strong. After all, if a person's aura is domineering and undisguised, Turtle Immortal will definitely feel oppressed easily. What impressed Kame Senrin was that Tang En seemed pitifully weak at this time. This feeling is even stronger than what Kame Senin feels in ordinary people. In the ordinary life of ordinary people, if Kame Senrin does not use his eyes to see or his ears to hear, he can still feel something when he is very close to him. At this moment, Tang En was standing in front of him, but he always felt as if this person didn't exist. As long as he squints his eyes, his ability to subconsciously sense life will tell him that the place in front of him is actually empty. This makes Turtle Immortal a little confused. I can't see through, Turtle Immortal said secretly. Lunch was eaten quickly, and 2/3 of the food went into Kelin's stomach. Kelin continued to invite Tang En for advice, and Tang En agreed, so the two continued to fight. Turtle Immortal didn't even have the intention to look at it, and even gave up asking Tang En. In his opinion, these things were insignificant. He jumped on the chair and started reading color comics. Turtle Immortal didn't ask, and Tang En certainly wouldn't say anything stupid to show off. There is no way I can tell Kame Senin that the great demon King Piccolo is now a younger brother to me. That's just stupid. It was almost evening. Tang En also said goodbye to Kelin and Turtle Immortal and returned to the western capital. Due to the cover of the trees, the forest has gradually become dark. At this time, the two people whose fate had been changed lit up a flame to illuminate and keep them warm, while chatting along the way. I wonder how strong senior brother Tang En is. As they practiced, the two of them realized how powerful Tang En was at that time. Moreover, thinking that Tang En went to the temple again, he must have become stronger. I'm really looking forward to it. We can hear what the gods look like in about a year. There is still more than a year before the world's best martial arts tournament. Tang En mentioned that he would participate in this martial arts tournament, so the two of them were ready to sign up. Maslow, I am going to return to Kailin Holy Land and continue to challenge Kailin Tower. Rem said. Are you sure? No. Why did you answer so simply? Maslow Rem looked at the junior brother in front of him. Unlike him, Maslow was very talented and might be above him now. Seeing juniors like Tang En and Maslow surpassing him step by step, he will inevitably feel unwilling to give up after being gratified. Only hard work can make him feel better. What are your plans? Rem asked. Well, I want to go back and teach that Mark a lesson. Then let him shout that Tianyi is the most powerful sect in the world. Rem suddenly laughed. Then both men started laughing. You actually remember these things? Yes, I will go look for senior brother later. I hope senior brother will have reached the top of Kailin Tower by then. Okay, then after tonight, let's go our separate ways for the time being. Hee hee, I've been practicing with my senior brother for more than a year. I'm sure I won't be used to it after being separated. Stop talking bullshit. Inexplicably, due to Tang En's intervention, the fate of many people is gradually changing. Everyone is practicing, like Rem and Maslow, and they are all striving to climb the Kailin Tower. Kelin and Sun Wukong also subconsciously want to defeat Tang En and win the championship in the next martial arts competition. Even in secret, the three masters and disciples from the Kakyu-senryu are preparing to participate in this martial arts meeting, so that the world can remember the reputation of the Kakyu-senryu. End of this chapter. Chapter 34 The Cute Girl. Chapter 34 The Cute Girl. 1 year and 6 months later, when Bulma once proposed to use the detector to check Tang En's combat power, she looked at the numbers in front of her and was a little confused. 1204. After a long time, Bulma realized that her boyfriend was incredibly powerful. No wonder she hasn't taken the initiative to check it. There is no need to hide his strength from his girlfriend, Tang En thinks so. Moreover, his current improvement speed is not shocking. In less than a year, Tianjin Fan and others have improved their strength from 200 to 300 to more than 1,000, and their speed is already very gentle. The gravity chamber was always kept at 2 to 3 times. When Tang En was particularly excited, he would temporarily adjust it to 5 times. It's not that higher multiples make Tang En unbearable, it's just that such multiples are enough for practice. After all, Tang En still needs extra energy to develop the Tianjin Fist. This is currently the most visible way to transcend the limit. After all, even the gods say that the Tianjin Fist has a divine aura, so it must not be simple. With Tang En's improvement, Kabeki gradually became more versatile, which made Tang En feel very satisfied. In the past year or so, I have to mention 2 things that happened in Zidu. One is that King Cat had secretly gathered martial arts masters, trained special forces, and even began to find young orphans for training, which was very impressive. During this period, Tang En was invited several times, but except for a symbolic visit when the army was first formed, Tang En did not participate since then. The second incident was an episode. Maslow returned to the Tianyi Martial Arts Hall for a short time, and then severely repaired the original mark. This incident also quickly caused waves in the fighting circle because Mark was recognized as powerful, and now that he was easily defeated, there was naturally an uproar. But the person involved, Maslow, laughed and walked away, and then nothing happened. As Tang En becomes stronger, his sense of breath becomes more and more sensitive. For example, now he can clearly know the location of the temple. Assuming that Laddies comes to Earth now, Tang En may be able to capture his unconcealable anger the moment he arrives on Earth. Hurry up. If you continue to take your time, I'll leave you to go on your own. On came Senran's Island, Bulma Twain and Oolong flew a plane specially to pick up Kelin and others. Today is the registration time for the No. 22nd World No. Martial Arts Tournament, and everyone agreed to go to the competition venue together. Master Wu Qian, come out quickly. Kelin stretched out his hands and urged, does my body really suit me? Kame Senin is still wearing a black suit, a red tie, a pair of sunglasses and a cane, which is quite fashionable. I think this suits you very well. Lan Kai smiled softly, put her hands on her belly and said. Kame Senin adjusted his tie a few more times. Really? I think the yellow one suits me better. What are you doing? Bulma put her fist on her waist and said dissatisfied. Today Bulma wore a jacket and a short skirt, looking very casual. Simran apologized profusely. Ha ha ha. I'm sorry, because I haven't been to a place with many girls for a long time, so I dressed up a little more handsomely. The tortoise at the side lowered its eyes, looking at the turtle fairy speechlessly. Stupid guy. How can you pretend to be cool when you're an old man? It's nonsense. Okay. Get in the car quickly, the old driver is about to take off. Tang En was wearing a pair of sunglasses and sitting in the pilot's seat of a private jet. It was a novel experience to drive this kind of machine. Kelin and Xianren went in first, followed by Wulong and Xianren's tortoise, and finally Bulma and Lan Kai. I'm finally going to the world's martial arts club. I really want to see the results of these 3 years of practice. Klin clenched his fists and said to Tang En beside him. Kabeki pushed the drinks and handed them to everyone. Thank you, Klin said after receiving it. It's been a long time since I last saw Goku, and I still miss him a lot, said Bulma, who was sitting in the passenger seat, silently sensing Wukong's aura. Tang En also said casually, that guy Goku is probably rushing towards the venue as hard as he can. This guy is quite far away from here and his breath is blurry. Everyone grinned and started laughing. After 3 years, they were finally going to meet each other again. That guy Wukong might be shocked when he sees how strong I have become. Krillin said. Okay. Then let's move forward at full speed. Tang En straightened his sunglasses with one finger, stepped on the accelerator, and set off. The plane burst into a burst of air waves and flew forward at a faster speed. Excuse me, has the player named Sun Wukong ever come to register? After Klin finished reporting his name, he asked the insider. After getting a negative answer, Klin couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Then child, he must have forgotten, right? Turtle Immortal asked doubtfully. It's still early. Wukong definitely doesn't have a plane like ours. It won't be easy to get here without some assault clouds. Tang En held a glass of juice and said slowly, Excuse me, are you Mr. Tang En? Said a beautiful girl. Everyone looked at the girl in front of them. Sen and Oolong especially widened their eyes. Haha. The best exclamation. Turtle Immortal silently wiped the saliva from his mouth. Tang En was a little confused. Normally, he shouldn't know her. Twain. Who is she? Bulma said with some evil intentions. Tang En put down the juice and shrugged, indicating that he didn't know her. Seeing this, Bulma turned to the girl again, her eyes questioning. Sorry to disturb everyone. Mr. Tang En is my idol. This is the first time I have met him. I have caused trouble to everyone. The girl put her hands in front of her body and lowered her head slightly. Bulma snorted and turned her head away. The eyes of Turtle Immortal and Klin on the side popped out. Such a cute girl was actually a fan of Tang and especially Klin. His eyes almost popped out. Exclamation. He vowed to win this time and become a person like Tang En. Klin only thought that because Tang En won the championship at the last World Martial Arts tournament, there would be such a cute girl as his fan, but that was not the case. Mr. Tang En, can you allow me to ask you a few questions? Thank you very much. The girl bowed deeply and said sincerely. Excuse me, Tang En said readily. The two of them walked away a little. After all, Tang En couldn't really go very far, at least he had to be in Bulma's sight. At this time, Tang En only loved Bulma. Right here, Tang En said. Okay. The girl responded. Mr. Tang En, my name is Tong Lia and I am the daughter of General Pierce. Tong Lia said. Dunn blinked. Pierce knew. The king's confidant is also the king's best friend and is in charge of military and political power. Oh, does the king have any instructions? Tang En asked curiously. No, Mr. Tang En, I came here this time. Apart from participating in the Martial Arts Association, I also want to thank you on behalf of the king. Hearing this, Tang En subconsciously looked at Tong Lia's anger. Compared with ordinary people, she was indeed powerful. Well, that's fine. The king should pay attention to this. Those extra reporters were also sent by the king. Tang En said, Yes, since receiving Mr. Tang En's guidance, His Majesty the King has indeed learned about martial arts and he has followed Mr. Tang's words and has not made it public on a large scale. Tong Lia paused and continued, Although I have used the cultivation methods provided by my husband, just more than a year of training is still not enough. Everyone hopes to see a real battle between the strong, so there are these reporters, but this information will not be released for the time being. Tang En couldn't deny it. This was exactly what he wanted. How to respond then? Please help me send a message to the king. Just say that I'm grateful that he took my words seriously, and if there's any crisis in the country, I'd be happy to help. Tang En said with a smile, speaking in official language. Tong Lia didn't care and immediately expressed her gratitude. The profound meaning inside is definitely not something Tong Lia can understand. Because Tang En is not just talking. Just now, an evil spirit suddenly appeared on the earth, but to Tang En, this was all a trivial matter. He had surpassed everyone in front of him by so much, but he really felt like he was experiencing life. He even wanted to use Piccolo's incident to catalyze the Earth's martial arts. I'm asking for your votes and rewards. End of this chapter. Chapter 35, Conflict. Chapter 35, Conflict. Then, Tong Lia asked Tang En a few more martial arts questions, then said goodbye and left. You boy. It's really disgusting. It's obvious that you already have Bulma. Kelin lowered his voice and said to Tang En jealously. At this time Tang En had also returned, and picked up his glass of fruit juice that had become warm again. Tang En looked at the unhappy Kelin and found it quite interesting. It can be seen that Tong Lia is a very good person. She always makes people feel comfortable when dealing with others. She deserves to be from a noble family. However, the two of them only met once, and it would have been easy for Tang En to fall in love with her when he had just traveled through time. But now it doesn't matter. After all, I have made too much progress. Kelin, that girl is also here to participate in the competition. Maybe you will have a chance. Tang En pointed out. Kelin lowered his head and blushed for a moment, not knowing what he was thinking. Senior brother Tang En. A call once again attracted everyone's attention. Tang En waved and responded. These were Maslow and Rem, and they were indeed here too. Senior brother. Long time no see. Maslow said happily that he was completely different from what he was 3 years ago. His growing strength gave him strong confidence, and the lack of obvious character flaws gave him the energy to achieve success as a young man. Rem on the side was actually very calm, with a slightly resolute look on his face, and his originally slightly fat body became completely strong. Rem was also very happy after seeing Tang En, but he was not overjoyed. The three of them greeted each other, and then Tang En Bin introduced the two of them to Kelin and others. A sudden thought occurred to Kelin, thinking that the two of them were Tang En's senior brothers, so they must be very powerful. Alas, this game has become more difficult again. Kam Senin just blinked. Although the two of them had improved a lot, they still couldn't get enough of Kam Senin at this time. After all, the two of them are still too young. Everyone gathered together, and the topic soon shifted to Kailin Tower. When he learned that the two people in front of him had reached Kailin Tower by their own strength, Kam Senin felt that his life was intimidating. When Kelin heard about the place of Kailin Tower again, he finally thought highly of it and regretted not finding time to go there. That's it. When I returned to Kailin Holy Land, senior brother Rem had already arrived at Kailin Tower. What a surprise! Senior brother Rem is so strong. Maslow told everyone about the plot of the two people's cultivation. Rem simply smiled. No one knew how he got through those 3 days and nights and how much sweat he put in. He didn't want to mention it to others. This kind of thing was his own personal matter. Tang En nodded seriously. Both of them had great merits, and Maslow's personality was also very suitable for promoting martial arts. After hearing what happened between the two people, he is now very optimistic about them. The rest depends on what the two of them want. I am not someone who will force them to do things just because I have helped them. If two people are reluctant, he can only choose someone else. An hour passed quickly, and everyone simply found a place to have lunch, but they almost finished eating without seeing Sun Wukong coming. Wukong won't come, right? I want him to see the results of my practice, Maslow said. The meeting between the two and Sun Wukong on the Kailin Tower has been known to everyone, and they couldn't help but feel worried after hearing this. Bulma still knew Sun Wukong very well and said immediately, how could that boy Wukong forget such a thing? He has always wanted to defeat Tang En. But that's impossible. Bulma is surprisingly confident in this regard. Although he didn't understand what Tang En's fighting power meant, but when he thought about what Tang En said, even the gods were no match for him. I'm afraid there would be no one more powerful than him in the world, right? This lady has really good taste. Turtle Immortal silently grabbed his crutch. He could no longer see through Tang En at all. For this reason, he simply did not sign up this time. He just hoped that young people could have their own opportunities. Oolong, you can sign up as Goku first, Bulma said. Okay, you still have to rely on me, Lord Oolong, at the critical moment. Oolong looked proud. No need, Tang En said. No need, Wukong has arrived. Tang En even felt a little happy in his heart. He didn't know why, but sometimes he still had this idea of showing off. Everyone looked around, but there was no one there. Just when everyone was about to ask Tang En, a young man wearing tiger skin quickly appeared in everyone's sight. Lan Kai on the side couldn't help but cover her mouth. Wukong. Kelin suddenly stood up and said happily, Wukong, you kid. You're finally here. Sun Wukong looked around and shouted in surprise, wow. Everyone is here. Krillin, Grandpa Wu Qian, Lan Kai, Bulma, Tang En, Oolong. Great. Are you Mamu and Snow? We meet again. Asshole. It's Maslow. Rem and Maslow. Maslow shouted angrily. Wukong scratched his head and smiled sheepishly. After being informed by everyone, Wukong immediately went to sign up, and then came to everyone. Little Wukong was a little curious about Kabeki, whom he had never seen before, and couldn't help but take a look. Damn it, that guy Wukong is still taller than me, Krillin said secretly. Tang En secretly compared the auras of everyone. Apart from him, the strongest among everyone present was Sun Wukong, let alone mentioning it. Came Sunin was next, but as he understood, there was no contestant named Jackie Chan this time, so he seemed to have given up. In the row at the back, it's Rem? Tang En's heart moved, and he glanced at his senior brother inadvertently. That shouldn't be the case. Supposedly, senior brother Rem should be even inferior to Maslow. Tang En said secretly. It's only been less than 3 years. Tang En was a little curious about what happened to Rem. He was obviously not very strong or talented, so how could he surpass Kelin? Even Maslow has not reached this point. Tang En shook his head and simply gave up thinking. He would find out when he had time to ask the cat immortal. Thinking of this, Tang En became more determined to promote martial arts. Maybe someone with extraordinary talent will pop up after Rem. Was Krillin, only slightly lower than Rem's breath. Finally, there is Maslow. This kid may not even know he has been surpassed by Rem, Tang En thought. At this moment, 3 other auras appeared in Tang En's perception. I thought who it was. Isn't this Gui Xianren? A voice disrupted everyone's conversation, and everyone looked towards it. Even Turtle Immortal was stunned for a while. He Immortal, I didn't expect you, an old fellow, to be dead. HMPH, you are still the same. Your mouth is as bad as your appearance. Zion continued to mock. Hey, I heard that your disciple was very popular last time. So what? HMPH. That means the Martial Arts Association has fallen. This time I brought my disciples here to show the world the real martial arts. Everyone couldn't figure out the situation and had no choice but to watch and say nothing. I'm sorry, the champion this time must be my disciple. You better run away with your tails between your legs before you don't lose face, haha. Crane Immortal continued. Ahahaha, you're still the same, you always like to talk nonsense. Gooey Zionran scratched his head and laughed. What? You hairless stinky turtle. Stop being so verbose. You half-baked old man. Two old enemies began to attack each other personally hateful. After realizing that they couldn't do anything to each other, the two gave up their incompetent rage. Zionran said to the Tianjin rice and dumplings behind him, let's go. See you on the field. Turtle Immortal watched the three people go away. Champion? Turtle Immortal shook his head and whispered to himself. I'm asking for your votes and rewards. End of this chapter. Chapter 36 Preliminaries. Chapter 36 Preliminaries. Wukong, where's your somersaulting cloud? It made us worry for a long time. Gixian came over and blamed. Wukong ate the rice ball and said in a daze, didn't Grandpa say you can't use somersault clouds when practicing? Turtle Immortal broke into a cold sweat. He was just talking about it at first, but he didn't expect Sun Wukong to actually do it. Wukong, you didn't get here by swimming, did you? Wulong said in surprise. After all, Papaya Island is surrounded by water, so you can only swim across it without transportation. I swam here from Yehai. Wukong didn't care at all. Simple Lil Wukong. What are you thinking about? Wulong shouted. That place in Yehai is on the other side of the earth, and there is a guy like you. Everyone was speechless and shocked, and the participants, including Kelin, felt even more complicated. Okay, anyway, we have already signed up. Let's have a good rest and prepare for tomorrow's competition. Kim Sento continued. The next day, due to the increase in the number of participants in this competition, the tournament will be changed from once every 5 years to once every 3 years! There are a total of 201 participants in this competition, but only 8 people can make it through the preliminaries. A fat monk shouted with a loudspeaker and then urged the contestants to enter the venue. Tang En and others separated from Lan Kai Bulma and other non-participants and entered the venue. Sun Wukong and Kelin changed into the martial arts uniforms of Gixian Liu. Tang En didn't ask Gixianren as his teacher, so he didn't change his clothes. Mr. Tang En, we meet again. Tong Liu walked up to Tang En and said, Are you Mr. Sun Wukong? On behalf of the king, I would like to express my deep gratitude to you. Tong Liu then turned to Sun Wukong and said. Sun Wukong blinked, not knowing what she was talking about. After all, he simply did not have the ability to connect the destruction of the red ribbon with the king. The people on the stage were announcing various rules of the competition, and at the same time everyone started queuing up to draw lots. The game is still divided into 4 divisions. One division is divided into 2 halves, and the top 8 are ultimately determined. Hey, Dumpling, isn't that person the one who exposed us? Tianjin Fan pointed at Sun Wukong and said. At this time, he had not been awakened by the Turtle Immortal, and there was always an evil spirit in his heart due to the influence of the environment. Okay. It's really interesting. Kelin lowered his head to draw lots, then ran away quickly. God bless, don't let me meet Miss Tong Liu in the preliminaries. It's best not to meet Wukong and Tang En in order to avoid contact with everyone. Tang En still did a trick and separated everyone. Sun Wukong Zone first half of Clint District, Tang En District first half, Rem RD District second half, Maso District second half, Tianjin Fan District first half, Dumplings Zone second half. After thinking about it for a while, Tang En assigned Tong Liu to the second half of the remaining first district. which just happened to separate everyone out. Could this be the top 8? Tang En cursed in his heart. The preliminaries will start soon, haha. Let me see the strength of Turtle Senryu. Tianjin fan seems very frivolous and a bit aggressive. Tianjin rice. Dumpling responded. Those who participated in the World's No. Martial Arts Association were indeed talented people. Although it was the preliminaries, there were still many extremely strong people. However, no matter how strong these people are, they are not out of the category of ordinary people. They naturally become as fragile as tofu when facing people like Tang En who have gone through cultivation. As expected, Mr. Tang En's friends are all extremely powerful. None of their opponents can last more than 1 minute, even though the opponent is a world champion in a certain industry. Tong Lia thought secretly. Bloom, remember to take pictures of Mr. Tang En and Sun Wukong's battle record. Yes, Miss Tong Lia. After Kelin solved a huge fat man, he jumped down and showed everyone a pose. Kelin, you are now stronger than what you were before, Sun Wukong said, clenching his fists. Really? I thought you would feel that I was weak. Clint scratched his head. Hee, this is completely non-existent. Little Wukong said with his hands on the back of his head. Maslow and Rem also congratulated Kelin one after another and then watched Twain's game. HMPH. It's just that level, just making such a fuss. Sure enough, the Kame Senryu are just a bunch of rats. Tianjin fan began to mock without thinking. This sentence was heard by everyone. Although Rem and Maslow were not from Gixianliu, they couldn't stand others insulting their friends. Maslow's character made him unable to bear it, and he immediately wanted to teach Tianjin fan a lesson. At this time, Sun Wukong also recognized the two as liars who bullied the villagers, and the conflict suddenly intensified. Haha, are you Maslow? What, you want to fight? Tianjin fan said. How? Maslow replied. Kelin stopped Maslow to avoid further escalation of the conflict. You'd better not be able to survive the preliminaries, otherwise hum, Tianjin fan sneered. Maslow couldn't hold back his anger. If Rem and Kelin hadn't pulled him, he would have punched him. Hey, dumplings, let's go. This episode passed quickly, and then Tang En returned after winning. He noticed that everyone was in a bad mood, and he learned about it after asking. Tang En, the Tianjin fan, quite admired him. He was a hybrid of a three-eyed star and an Earthling, with amazing vitality and strong martial arts talent. Even in the middle and late stages, a Qigong cannon can actually hold down Charu. If he didn't have alien blood, he would be the strongest person on Earth. If given the chance, Tang En wouldn't mind giving him a hand. Soon, the first half of all 4 divisions was over. Sun Wukong, Tang En, Kelin, and Tianjin fan all advanced. Oh, there was a commotion down the field. Miss Tong Lia is in danger. Kelin shouted, then ran towards the no ring. Huh? Kelin. Sun Wukong turned around and followed Kelin to the ring. Tang En turned his gaze over there and saw that Tong Lia had been forced to retreat continuously. Can't you? I'm just tired. Tong Lia sang. Kelin cheered on the side. Tong Lia's eyes on the ring were slightly cold, and she usually wouldn't be angry. Miss Tong Lia, no matter how hard you try, you can't beat me. Why don't you understand? The man on the ring stood on tiptoe and said, There is not much difference in strength between the two. After all, Tong Lia only had a short training time, so she is already very talented to be able to reach this level. What everyone didn't know was that when Tong Lia fought against him, they were evenly matched, but the other party kept trying to take advantage of Tong Lia. In addition, Tong Lia was not a martial artist, so she was very aggrieved by some insidious means, so she was a little angry. Miss Tong Lia, don't give up. Many people shouted outside the stadium. Call tilde. Tong Lia breathed out a breath and smiled around her. Forget it. I admit defeat. What? Everyone was surprised and didn't understand why she did this. There is obviously still a chance. Klin wondered. At this moment, Tong Lia has also left. Are you Mr. Klin? Thank you for your concern, but I didn't go to win the competition, so I disappoint you. Tong Lia didn't feel discouraged at all. She squatted slightly and spoke to Klin in a gentle tone. Ah, no, it's nothing. Klin immediately blushed, not caring about anything else. Then Tong Lia, Tang En, Wukong and others nodded. Next, I can cheer for everyone. So beautiful, Klin said in a low voice. In this way, Tong Lia was eliminated in the preliminaries, so she had to be placed on the sidelines. Investigate that puff and teach him a lesson. Yes, Miss Tong Lia. Remember not to cause trouble. End of this chapter. Chapter 37. Chapter 37. The first battle of the top 8. The final 8 were similar to what Tang En expected, except that Tong Lia was replaced by the guy named Puff. This guy seems to be one of the top 8, right? Tang En didn't remember it clearly. After all, he was a small character. Are you Tang En? Tianjin Fan came over and said. Yes, Tang En replied. Were you the last champion? Yes. Ha, Tianjin Fan curled his lips. HMPH. You are so weak. I really don't know how much stronger you are than ordinary people. Tang En has black lines all over his head. The young Tianjin Fan deserves a beating. Is this how I control my anger? Well, I'm really sorry to disappoint you. Tang En was still relatively calm on the surface and said calmly, HMPH. You brazen fellow, just because you are worthy of being compared with senior brother Tang En? Tang En could bear it, but Maslow couldn't. He immediately went toe-to-toe with Tianjin Fan. Oh, where did you jump out of the clown? There is no place for you to intervene. Hee. Only you mediocre people will lose to this kind of guy. Tianjin Fan folded his arms and said calmly, You, damn it. Maslow already had a prejudice against Tianjin Rice, and now he is even more angry. What? Are you going to come here to seek death without knowing what is good or bad? At this moment, Tang En could feel that Maslow was about to explode. Although I say I don't care, that's because I don't have any bad feelings towards Tianjin Fan. I just think he is naive. They are all children. But he couldn't ignore Maslow's feelings. After all, he stood up for himself. At this time, a monk from the Buddha temple accidentally knocked over the bucket while mopping the floor, which happened to splash Tianjin Rice and Dumpling's legs. Tianjin Fan was also very angry and grabbed the monk next to him. Idiot, you soiled our Kakusenryu martial arts uniform. The monk was very flustered, and he was directly lifted into the air by Tianjin Fan. A pair of hands grabbed Tianjin Fan's arm and said, That's it. See the truth during the game and don't yell outside the field. Tang En stared at Tianjin Rice and said, It's just you? You're worthy Zilla. It felt like a pinprick. Tang En suddenly burst out with a breath. His eyes were sharp, and his whole person exuded a kind of shocking terror, and a huge sense of oppression swept over him. Snapped exclamation came. Sunan outside the field suddenly let go of his hand holding the water cup, and the cup fell to the ground and shattered, and the warm water inside splashed all over him. Bulma and others noticed the changes in Kame Sento and quickly asked. Turtle Immortal didn't answer. He just stood up and looked at the venue. After being stunned for a while, he said, Well, I always like to make a fuss when I'm older. Sorry. Everyone blamed for a while, saying that Gui Zionren frightened them, and Gui Zionren just scratched his head foolishly. What was that feeling just now? It was so scary. Turtle Immortal couldn't explain what he felt, but in short, his heart suddenly panicked. Most of the people present had no idea what Tang En had done. After all, even the Turtle Immortal could only feel palpitations in his heart. It's Dr. Kabeki rolled his eyes. Among all the people, he was the only one who knew the truth of the matter. As for the center of the target Tianjin Fan, although he didn't know the aura, the momentum that hit his face also made him break out in a cold sweat. His body could barely move, and his eyes became dull for a moment. Then, Tianjin Fan reluctantly pulled his arm out of Tang En's hand and immediately took a few steps back. At this moment, Tianjin Fan's back was already soaked. Tianjin Dumpling didn't understand. The Tianjin rice looked so much like this that he was afraid of the person in front of him. How could it be possible? Dumpling, let's go. After saying that, Tianjin Fan left alone. Outside the court, Tianjin Fan, who was getting more and more humiliated as he thought about it, was going crazy. Damn it! Damn it! Trash! Trash! Tianjin Fan, you are actually scared by others, you are a waste. Tianjin Fan punched the wall in anger, and the wall suddenly fell into pieces. Damn it! Twain, I will definitely make you look good during the competition. Tianjin Fan regarded the situation just now as Tang En's despicable means and vowed that he would never be fooled again. At this time, in the martial arts hall, Dumpling also went out to look for Tianjin Fan after he left. Twain, you were so powerful just now. Sun Wukong exclaimed. Oh, Wukong, can you feel what just happened? Tang En still has some differences. Normally, apart from Tianjin Fan, no one should be able to feel his aura just now. No, but the guy with the 3 eyes must have been scared by you before leaving. It is. Sure enough. Sun Wukong suddenly became happy. Tang En, you have really become a lot stronger. I really want to fight you as soon as possible. Okay, I also want to fight Goku. Tang En came over and patted Maslow on the shoulder by the way. HMPH. That guy is really the most annoying guy in the world. If senior brother Tang En hadn't taken action, I would have taught him a lesson. Ha ha ha, thank you. Maslow. Tang En expressed his gratitude seriously. Okay, let's invite everyone to draw lots. The brown-haired referee appeared again. First of all, I invite the done players to draw lots. Tang En walked forward and reached for the note inside. Is he the last champion? Puff asked. Dumpling, find a way to make him fight against me. Tianjin Fan said. Okay. Suddenly, a strange wave came, silently changing some physical rules. Does Dumpling have superpowers? It is said that although Tang En is powerful, superpowers really depend on talent. And he neither has a high talent, nor has he spent any time training, so he relies entirely on skills. In terms of superpower level, I'm afraid it's not comparable to Dumpling. Meeting Tianjin Fans so early? It's really dramatic. Tang En murmured to himself. This does not conform to the rule in the comics that the strong fight at the end. No. Tang En opened it and took a look. All right, player Twain is no. Next please. The lottery was drawn within 1 minute, and the final result was Kailin game, Sun Wukong vs. Puff game, Maslow vs. Rem game, Klin vs. Dumpling game, Tang En vs. Tianjin Fan. Half an hour later. Come on. Goku. The ring for the top 8 was put outside the ring, and Monkey King was the first to stand on the ring soon. Bulma and others finally waited until everyone qualified, and quickly cheered for Goku. Oolong and Oogway were next to Kabeki, but they could only hang themselves on the wall because of their height. Turtle Immortal was also watching from the audience at this time, and next to him was Crane Immortal. It's funny to say that the two of them have always been dissatisfied with each other since they were young, and even at such an old age, they would quarrel from time to time. Even Lan Kai subconsciously stayed away from these two worthless old men. Puff. Puff. Compared to Sun Wukong, this little-known Puff seems to be more popular, and it is said that he is also a champion of some kind. Time passes by. Sun Wukong in the ring has been ready for a long time, and now he is scratching his head and waiting. What? What a big arrogance. Let's wait for him alone. Oolong said, dissatisfied. There was also noise off the court, and the brown-haired referee had to stand up and say, due to regulations, if a player cannot be seen within 10 minutes of the start of the game, it will be automatically forfeited. Now the countdown begins. HMPH. It's better for him not to come and to surrender. Oolong said. As time passed, It seemed that the puff still had no intention of appearing, and the audience was full of comments. The last 10 seconds. 10 haha. I didn't expect you turtles and turtles to be so lucky that you can win without having to compete. The crane immortal in the audience was even more venomous and said to the turtle immortal. Not to be outdone, turtle immortal immediately responded, Colon, you bald crane. If you don't know how to teach your apprentice, don't teach it, you idiot. This is a satirical reference to the immortal he who mistook his disciples and taught them bad things about Tianjin rice and dumplings. What, you perverted old turtle? Do my disciples still need your guidance? Bald crane. The surrounding audience immediately stayed away from the two men. After all, these two old men did not look like they were sane. 3, 2, 1 times up. This competition will be handled as if the puff player has given up. The winner is the Sun Wukong player. Strange. I saw him clearly during the draw, but why did he disappear within half an hour? Sun Wukong walked out confused, obviously very dissatisfied. Borrowed it, borrowed it. A tall man walked over protecting a woman. Bloom, over there. The girl pointed at Bulma's position and said. Bulma noticed the two of them. Aren't you that Tong Leia? I have long admired your name, MS. Bulma. It is fitting to say that the inventions of you and your father, Dr. Breves, changed the entire world. Tong Leia said. Bulma was obviously dull. When she heard others praising her, she immediately crossed her arms and became proud. Humph. What is this? I am the most beautiful girl in the world. Tong Leia responded with a smile. Soon, the two began to chat, and Tong Leia did not miss anyone else during this period, even the robot Kabeki and the turtle. With his excellent language talent, he quickly gained everyone's goodwill. In the middle, Oolong wanted to take advantage of Tong Leia, but when he saw the tall man behind her, he immediately gave up the idea. If he were Kame Sunin, he would probably have such courage, but the Kame Immortal was currently studying with another old man a few meters away from the crowd, the question of which of the two people would die first. So naturally he had no time to care. 2 chapters of 5,000 words per day. For a new book, the progress is really not slow. Please give me a monthly ticket for recommendation. End of this chapter. Chapter 38. Chapter 38. Immediately afterwards, it was the turn of Rem and Maslow. Brother, this is our first real battle, Maslow said. The two men stood on the ring, looking at each other. After 3 years of getting along, the two of them are extremely familiar with each other, and they can't wait to show everyone their results. Yes, junior brother, senior brother will not hold back. Rem said me too. The two were gearing up and eager to give it a try. Okay. I announce that the second game of the quarterfinals will begin now. The referee moved his hand downward to announce the start of the battle. It's too late to say it. As soon as Rem raised his arm, a pair of iron fists hit his elbow and moved him back. So fast. Kelin exclaimed in surprise. The two of them knew each other to some extent and knew that they were similar. They were not afraid of hurting each other too much and started to get serious. Maslow calmed down and concentrated. Maslow could even vaguely hear Rem's strong heartbeat in his ears, and he could also feel the sound of his opponent's blood boiling. Rem launched his attack, his steps slightly moving, and his body winding forward, making it temporarily difficult to tell the direction of his attack. Maslow stepped on his feet and instantly transformed from stillness to sprinting. Not only was he incredibly fast, but he also grasped the timing very well. To be able to reach this level in just 3 years, both of them must have put in enough effort. Suddenly, the extremely fast Maslow got stuck in Rem's point of exertion, which made Rem feel extremely uncomfortable. His opponent's keen sense of smell really surprised him. It seems that he is not the only one hiding his strength, Rem thought. Rem gave up the heavy attack, and the two of them attacked a few tentatively, quickly moving away from each other, preparing for the next opportunity. It has to be said that the two people have a lot of martial arts experience, and they are not inferior to Kelin and others at all. Snapped! Maslow dived and then struck out with his right hand, which was accompanied by a violent sound of wind, but it only hit the afterimage of his opponent. The outcome of the battle ultimately depends on personal physical strength, speed and other factors, and moves are just a test of the two. Boom! Boom! The continuous collision challenges the audience's perception and refreshes their cognitive upper limit. It's so exciting. It is said that the two players present came from the same school and are the brothers of the previous champion Twain players. It's really surprising. The referee in a black suit held a microphone and explained. There was a commotion in the audience and then there was a round of applause. Miss Tong Lia, I am no match for them. Bloom approached Tong Lia and said softly. Tong Lia nodded and thought in her mind, these two people were just unknown people 3 years ago. Sure enough, there is a unique cultivation method in this world. Even these two people are so strong, the Sun Wukong who destroyed the Red Ribbon Army and that Tang and Tong Lia thought of the military training ground in Zidu. Do such people really exist in the world? Then stared at the situation on the field intently, and had the idea of showing off with them in his heart. Be careful. Rem gave a slight reminder and then his whole body began to swell. You could vaguely see the burst blood vessels on it, and the aura of his whole body also became swollen. What followed was strong power, and the speed of the two people's moves concealed the subtlety of each move. Both of them can use the most effective way to attack the opponent while minimizing their own consumption. Rem, who was stronger, immediately suppressed Maslow, and Maslow had to retreat to the defense in embarrassment. So senior brother is so strong. I was shocked. Maslow stepped back. He had been punched just now and was now forced to the edge of the ring. Haha, isn't it the same for you? I don't believe you are at this level. Maslow grinned as if he agreed. Okay, senior brother, be careful, even I can't control my full strength. We'll see. Rem was not afraid. Maslow stopped smiling and his expression became serious. It's a pity. I was originally going to give that 3 eyes, but now I can't use them. Tianjin, they are very powerful. Dumpling said to Tianjin Fan. HMPH, in my eyes they are no different from those 2 Kainsen Ryu brats. Tianjin Fan responded. Tianjin Rice is amazing. Plin on the side was also very dissatisfied after hearing this, and looked at the other party subconsciously. What? Plin rubbed his eyes, then quickly jumped onto the wall and said to Sun Wukong next to him, Hey, Wukong, they too can fly. Sun Wukong turned around and looked very surprised. It's true. You can fly like Tang En. The wall inside the martial arts hall is still very high. For example, Goku Krillin puts his hands on it and exposes his head, while Tianjin Rice and Dumplings are suspended in the air. Be careful, senior brother. Maslow's breath gradually grew. Rem subconsciously stepped back. Maslow suddenly laughed again and said lightly, It's really unexpected. To be honest, senior brother, I always thought that I had surpassed you, but I didn't expect senior brother if you can avoid it. Then there is nothing I can do. Rem smiled, probably guessing what his junior brother was going to do. Rem felt a little relieved in his heart. As a sure kill move, this move should have come as a surprise rather than deliberately letting himself notice it. Rem exhaled and said to himself, Qigong wave? Junior brother, I'm really jealous of your talent. Rem remembered the time he climbed the Kailin tower. For 3 days and 3 nights he walked up almost unconsciously, climbing and crawling, as if in a daze. He didn't even know why he was climbing. He even forgot who he was. He only remembered that he had reached the top of the tower when he woke up. He worked hard, but luckily, reality rewarded him. Being able to fight Maslow like this time, he felt that even if he lost, he would have no regrets. Maslow finished charging up and pushed forward suddenly. Brother, be sure to stay away. Full blast! Exclamation hold head high. A flash of light rang out, instantly catching everyone's attention. Exclamation Tong Lia and Klin's minds were filled with excitement. The two of them had complicated thoughts one after another. The former was excited, while the latter was dejected. "Oh, okay, you're looking down on him." Tianjin Fan curled his lips, but he didn't expect that Maslow could reach this level. "If I only have this level," Nanan said, his eyes becoming firm. "That's too disappointing." Seeing the rapid attack, Rem's pride overcame his reason. He took a defensive stance in just a moment and gave up the idea of avoiding it. "I won't hide." In less than half a breath, Rem's entire body was enveloped by Qigong. The powerful heat ripped his clothes into ashes, and the wall behind Rem was also affected to the point of cracking. What? Maslow immediately understood what had happened, but he didn't think much about it at this time. After all, if he lets go at this moment, he will never forgive himself in his life. The two pushed forward with all their strength, which greatly tested their endurance, physical strength, and perseverance. Tang En estimated the strength of the two men in his mind. When Maslow burst out the Qigong wave, his combat strength had already exceeded. If Rem could avoid this blow, there would be no doubt about victory. With their similar strength, this is definitely possible, but now, Tang En can only hope that Rem will not die. After all, with almost the same strength, it is no joke to receive a full blow from the opponent head-on. After about a stick of incense, the smoke and dust dissipated, cracks appeared on the floor of the arena, and the audience finally turned their attention to the two men. Maslow was obviously a little out of strength. He had never used this move to this extent. It was almost as good as Kame Sennin's blow to put out the fire in the Flame Mountain. If Rem hadn't blocked the greatest power, there would have been a big hole in the martial arts venue. Then, another figure appeared, his clothes were torn, and his figure began to shake. Did you survive it? Rem tried his best to smile at Maslow. At this time, he was covered with scars. If it weren't for his abnormal physical fitness, he would have fallen to the ground long ago. The situation is obvious at the moment. Although Maslow is out of strength, he has not been substantially injured. At most, he is physically exhausted. And Rem was indeed seriously injured. If it was delayed for a long time, there would be big problems. Rem seemed to have noticed this problem, and shook his head gently. His body couldn't help but tremble. "I lost. I didn't expect that junior brother can already use Qigong waves. It's really powerful." Rem took a breath and said shakily. In fact, when the two of them reached the point, they could already try to use Qigong waves. Even Kelin was the same, but Rem's concentration made him have no time to take care of more move development. After all, this takes time, and he happens to be short of time. End of this chapter. Chapter 39, The Turtle School Qigong Wave. Chapter 39, The Turtle School Qigong Wave. The audience under the ring burst into applause. After the final victory was announced, Rem was helped out of the field by Maslow. Senior brother Maslow felt a little complicated. I feel pretty good. When I learn Qigong next time, I won't let you win so easily again. Rem breathed a sigh of relief and said with relief. Maslow's eyes were a little moist and he nodded heavily. As soon as he entered the venue, Maslow greeted a smiling Tang En. Maslow wiped the corners of his eyes and shouted shyly, "Senior brother Tang En, hey, you are really capable, beating senior brother Rem so badly." Tang En supported Rem and immediately prepared to get him the fairy beans. "It doesn't matter. I'll work hard next time and personally teach this kid what it means to respect a senior brother." Rem also began to tease Maslow. The three of them laughed for a while, and when their eyes met, the reflections in their eyes suddenly became more friendly. "Is this a fairy bean?" Rem said in surprise when he saw the beans that Tang En gave him. "No, this is too expensive. Even immortal Kailin doesn't have much." Tang En wanted to laugh even more when he heard this. He first defrauded more than % of the fairy beans, and then told Kailin the function of the fairy beans. Of course, there were less fairy beans. "Don't worry, I have more fairy beans than I can use up." I'll give these to you first. Tang En took out a handful of fairy beans from the pocket he prepared in advance, and distributed them between the two. Although there are many fairy beans, their preciousness is self-evident. The two of you are practicing alone. You can't do it without it. Take it, it's all wasted on me, Tang En said. The two of them had complicated emotions. The magical objects in their impressions were right in front of them. They had begged for a long time before they got two of them. Then I'm welcome. Rem took out a fairy bean and swallowed it. In the blink of an eye, all the muscles in his body immediately became full, and the burns all over his body returned to normal. Amazing. At this moment, Sun Wukong and Kelin also ran over. Sun Wukong showed no sign of Rem's recovery from his injuries. Maybe he didn't notice at all. Kelin was a little nervous because he was about to play. Although he was a little surprised, he didn't ask any more questions. Next, I invite Kelin from Gixian Liu and Dumpling from Hexian Liu to appear. The brown-haired host shouted. You actually compare me to a bald turtle like you. It makes me laugh to death. He Zionran taunted Turtle Zionran as if he was very green under his hat. Just watch, your apprentice is definitely no match for Dumpling. I advise you to let that little bald man surrender as soon as possible. Ha ha ha. Come on, Krillin, Wukong shouted. Game start. Kelin was excited and immediately prepared, waiting for his opponent's attack. Dumpling said nothing and didn't even have any expression. What a strange person. Kelin took 2 steps back and stared at his opponent. Suddenly, the dumpling's body left the ground and floated more than 10 centimeters away from the ground. Damn it, this flying guy is really cheating, Kelin said angrily. In an instant, Dumpling used Wukong jutsu to fly in front of Kelin and knocked him away with one hand. Kelin adjusted his position in the air, preparing to land smoothly. This blow had almost no effect on him. But Dumpling was already waiting at Kelin's landing point. He jumped up suddenly and hit his head on Kelin's stomach. Boom! Kelin was knocked away again, and a surge of anger arose spontaneously. Kelin dived down, preparing to use the power of the air to give Dumpling a heavy blow. However, the speed of Wukong jutsu cannot be underestimated, and Kelin dodged it before he could hit the Dumpling. So fast. Krillin gritted his teeth. Okay, that's it. Kelin had an idea. Kelin disappeared in an instant. He moved at high speed and with great skills disappeared from Dumpling's sight. Yeah, where? Dumpling quickly looked for him, but with his current strength, he couldn't find Kelin at all. Dumpling's strength is mainly due to his superpowers. In terms of pure physical skills, he is completely inferior to Kelin. Tianjin Fan also noticed this and shouted, Dumplings, on your left. The right hand holds the chopsticks, and the one on the left is snapped! Kelin's fierce blow hit Dumpling, but Kelin would not give up such a good opportunity to get close. His fists and shadows intertwined without stopping, and he used all his strength to attack Dumpling, trying to force him away. Get out of the ring. Good job, Kelin, Bulma encouraged from the side. Hee hee. Crane Immortal smiled sadly. Sure enough, Dumpling, who was being approached, was quickly forced to the corner of the ring. Kelin continued to punch, and Dumpling left the edge of the ring. But instead of falling to the ground, it flew into the air. Kelin didn't say a word. He just hoped that Dumpling wouldn't be able to react and would fall off the ring. The result was even more obvious that his opponent would still be very difficult. After a few more breaths, the dumplings showed no intention of coming down. Kelin was speechless for a while. What is this? Kelin, be careful of your opponent's attacks from the air, Tang En said at this time. Oh, it seems that you know our Zion Liu very well. Tianjin Fan turned his head and said to Tang En. Kelin was surprised, wasn't he? I saw Jiaozi raised her hand, raised a finger, and slowly accumulated strength. This is. Kelin had a bad feeling. Dingdongbo. Brush! A burst of light flashed, and Klin immediately dodged away, looking back to see that the original ground had become scorched black. Tinvongbo! There was another attack, and Klin had no choice but to dodge, panicking inside. What kind of move is this? You can actually float in the air and perform moves. Isn't it invincible? Tong Lia said softly. Bulma on the side rubbed her nose after hearing this and said lightly, "Humph. What does it mean to fly in the air? It's like he is the only one in the world who can do it." Tong Lia quickly continued to ask, "Is Mr. Tang En okay?" Bulma shook her head proudly and did not answer, but Tong Lia already knew. In the arena at this moment, Sky's attacks continued. Soon, Klin would inevitably be hit by one of the attacks and be severely injured. Tang En held his chin lightly. He would definitely know how to do this whole wave. It has strong penetrating and burning properties, and at the same time consumes very little. Kailin was also very aggrieved, and a sense of unwillingness arose in his heart. Why can even this kid know Qigong waves? How could I be so weak? Ah ha ha ha, how about it? Old man turtle, just wait until your apprentice turns into a pile of charcoal. Crane Immortal laughed and said, "Shut up, you idiot. You won't be able to change your bad temper until you die." Kame Immortal stared at the ring, feeling a little worried in his heart. At this time, Klin thought of Tang En's junior brother Maslow again and felt mixed emotions again. Damn it, never mind. There's no reason why I can't do it. Turtle, huh? The Kame Immortal outside the court stared at the situation carefully and couldn't help but frown at this moment. Can Clint do it too? Apparently, this was because he was worried that Krillin would not be able to defeat Dindambo with his immature Kamehi Qigong. Turtle School Qigong Wave. The two Qigongs collided and emitted a dazzling light. "I remember," Goku yelled, attracting the attention of everyone nearby. "This move is exactly the same as that of the guy named Tao Beibai." Tianjin Rice was shocked. What did you say? End of this chapter. Chapter 40 Summoning. Chapter 40 Summoning. I remember, Goku yelled, attracting the attention of everyone nearby. "This move is exactly the same as that of the guy named Tao Beibai." Tianjin Rice was shocked. What did you say? Tao Beibai, the uncle who had been missing for 3 years, appeared again in the ears of Tianjin fans. Little Wukong looked at the surprised Tianjin fan and blinked his innocent eyes. "I said Tao Beibai. Master Crane Immortal." With a slightly panicked look on his face, Tianjin fan passed through the crowd outside the venue and squeezed in front of Zianran. "What's going on? Why did you run out of the martial arts gym in such a sudden state?" Zianran said very dissatisfiedly. At this moment he was staring at the situation of dumplings. It was obvious that the situation was not good. "Master, a boy just said." Tianjin fan looked very shocked, and Fu Er said to Zianran, "What? My brother Tao Beibai was killed? How is it possible?" Crane Immortal exclaimed, anger and disbelief filling his brain, and he was extremely angry at this moment. "No wonder. There has been no news for 3 whole years. Something big happened." Tianjin fan comforted Zianran and said, "Master, don't worry. That Sun Wukong must have used insidious means to kill Uncle Tao Beibai. I will avenge him." "Of course. Tao Beibai is the world's #1 killer. How can anyone surpass him?" Crane Immortal said angrily. The sunglasses of Kame Senin on the side flashed with light, and his palms were a little wet at this moment. "So, Wukong killed Tao Beibai 3 years ago. Fortunately, he did not participate in the martial arts meeting this time, otherwise he might woe!" Turtle Immortal was grabbed by the collar by he Immortal, and then a roar came directly into Turtle Immortal's ears. "You stinky turtle. Did you hear it just now? My only brother Tao Beibai was killed by your apprentice using insidious means." Kame Senin was shaken a few times and his sunglasses were thrown off, but there was still no reaction. "Master," Tianjin fan made a worried sound. "Old perverted turtle. Don't pretend to be asleep for me. Ah Bai is dead. Hatilda." Turtle Immortal rubbed his eyes, looking like he had just woken up. Hum. There's nothing we can do about it. After all, he killed so many people. Crane Immortal suddenly loosened Kame Immortal's collar, causing Kame Immortal to stumble a little. Of course he was very angry. It had been 300 years, and there were only a few of them left in that era. Boom! He Zion and Tianjin turned around and found that Dumpling had been completely suppressed, and the turtle-style Qigong was directly attached to each other's face. Dumplings, Tianjin said worriedly. Success. Klin jumped and said excitedly. Pity Turtle Immortal secretly thought that if Klin's turtle-style Qigong was more proficient, this blow could determine the outcome. Sure enough, when the dumpling was about to land, it fluttered onto the ring again, covered in darkness. Diaphragm Dumpling took off his hat and wiped his forehead with a cloth. Suddenly, a bright head appeared again. Dumplings. Don't waste your time. Crane Immortal was furious. Use all your strength to kill that kid. Crane Immortal roared wildly. What? Klin was frightened by this sound and glanced at Crane Immortal in fear. Forehead. The referee in a black suit opened his mouth wide. What is this abnormal old man talking about? Doesn't he know that killing people is not allowed in martial arts tournaments? Tang En also noticed the situation in the arena. Although Dumpling was not very strong, his superpowers were indeed very difficult to guard against at this stage. Just when Tang En was thinking about this matter, suddenly, a voice sounded in Tang En's mind: Twain. Come to me. Tang En's expression changed. God. He must be aware of the god's ability to transmit sounds. After all, he has been in the temple for so long. Tang En thought for a while, and the gods must know his current situation. There should be something more important to call him on this occasion. It should be. An idea appeared in Tang En's mind. Okay, Tang En said. Tang En, are you talking? Sun Wukong looked around, wondering why Tang En said such a thing suddenly. Wukong, I have some urgent matters to deal with. If I haven't come back after Krillin's game, please help me inform everyone so that everyone doesn't worry. Tang En said. With his current strength, the martial arts meeting is really child's play. Although he also wants to participate, it is obviously more necessary to respond to the call of the gods. After all, the gods can be counted as their own benefactors. As for the Martial Arts Association, he guarantees that he is number one. The gap is too obvious. Also, Tang En, are you not going to compete? Sun Wukong was still a little uncomfortable and asked in embarrassment. Wukong, you must win the championship. When I come back, I must fight you again. Tang En said. Yes. Sun Wukong nodded solemnly and clenched his fists. Then I'm leaving. Tang En walked to a corner, then rushed straight into the sky, flying towards the temple. 10 minutes later Tang En saw the temple in the sky and could vaguely see the two black and white figures on it. Tang En landed quickly. At this time, the god was still wearing a white robe and leaning on a cane. The god was followed by Bobo, but the difference was that the god was now at the edge of the temple looking at something quietly with a solemn expression. God, I am here, Tang En said. The god responded. Tang En, come and see. Tang En was already walking towards the god of heaven, and he greeted Bobo cordially when he passed by. When he arrived next to the god, Tang En subconsciously looked down along the god's field of vision, but he couldn't see anything, except for the vaguely perceptible outline of the spherical earth. I can't see anything, Tang En said frankly. The god sighed and said slowly, yes, I couldn't see it at the time, but it's different now. How did God see it that day? Rely on practice. Tang En was stunned for a moment and said ashamedly, it seems that I still have a lot to do. The god turned his head and said to Tang En, my child, you are the most outstanding person I have ever seen in my life. Your strength, perseverance, and understanding are the only ones I have ever seen in my life. The god didn't seem to know what to say, he just thought slowly. God, have you seen Sun Wukong? Oh, is it the one you mentioned last time? Correct. I've seen him. That kid has an extremely simple mind and an amazing talent. He may not be able to surpass me in time. Tang En nodded. After all, no one can tell at a glance how powerful Sun Wukong will be in the future. Tang En also understood this. I don't know why the god is troubled. Tang En changed the subject and asked the god why he contacted him. The god did not hesitate and said directly, Twain, with your current strength, Bobo and I should no longer be your opponents, right? Tang En looked at the god and said calmly, yes, god. A smile appeared on the old face of the god, very good my child, you are also a kind person. The god paused and continued, my child, are you willing to become a god? Tang En was stunned for a moment, and while seriously considering the god's words, he responded to the god, me. Why? Just because of my strength? If that's the case, I feel like Goku has more hope. Tang En didn't refuse immediately. God, it sounded so cool. As a human being on Earth, if I can't break through in the end, I would be pretty good at being a god. Is that so? Obviously, the gods could not figure out why Tang En was so optimistic about Sun Wukong. After all, in his opinion, even the limit of the people on Earth cannot reach Tang En's level. However, the god did not dwell on this issue and just continued. You cannot become a god just by being powerful. A god must have a kind heart, and Tang En continued to look at the god. He also wanted to see what the god said about him. Son, that heavenly god fist of yours, can you show me again? Tang En nodded. After so many years of practice, his Tiantian fist has been able to triple his strength. In other words, when he explodes with all his strength, he will have a strength of more than. It's simply outrageous. After all, this is not the same as the increase in Kaio fist. Tang En once regarded this god's fist as his biggest reliance on breaking through the limitations of the people on Earth. Its magic made Tang En feel that the world view was a bit messy. Tang En discovered that it was just a matter of exercising his aura according to the requirements of Tiantian fist every day. Over time, your breath will inexplicably accumulate a lot of divine factors. Whenever Tang En uses the God Fist, the divine factors in his body will quickly integrate into his own aura, and then generate huge tension. The quantity of the aura remains unchanged at all, but its quality does become thicker and thicker. Tang En released the divine fist, and the huge aura shocked the surroundings. After staying for a few breaths, Tang En suppressed it and returned to his normal form. That's it. At this time, the god was already breaking out in a cold sweat. Tang En had only surpassed him by a little before, and the impact was not big. However, at this time, he felt inexplicably suppressed, and in more than one way the god immediately said, yes, that's it. It looked familiar when I first felt it. It always felt very familiar. The god's tone was a little complicated, as if he was thinking about how to express what he meant. Tang En raised the point at this time. Is it more similar to the breath of God? After all, the name of the boxing technique is God Fist. Tang En said this. After so many years of training, he had already made many guesses about Tiantian Fist. After various speculations, it is possible that the God Fist is a heaven-defying move that transforms one's own aura into a god-level life. Of course, this was what Tang En expected most, and he didn't know if it was right. The god faced Tang En face to face and said, yes, it's a bit like the breath of some gods, but as far as I know, the real god should have no breath. Child, what I want to say is God finally summarized his words and said to Tang En, it's intimacy. Huh? This made Dun a little puzzled. The god continued, yes, originally I just thought you were the first person I had ever seen who climbed onto the temple, so that's why. But after that, my talent told me that I had felt this way once before, but that was 300 years ago, when I saw a note. My child, you are probably the closest person to me on Earth. Ask for a monthly ticket reward recommendation. End of this chapter. Alright legends, that's it for today. If you're ready for the next chapter, smash that like button and flood the comments right now. Remember, we've got 3 days to prove this story needs to continue. Subscribe so you don't miss the drop, and I'll meet you in the next audiobook.